Hello and welcome everyone to Sales Development Excellence 2024. I'm Olivia Milton, CMO at Reply, and we're absolutely thrilled to have you join us today. Whether you are a sales leader or part of an SDR team or a cold outreach practitioner, you are in for a day packed with insights and strategies and designed to take your sales development to the next level.
Hi everyone, my name is Vlad and I am growth person here at Reply. Today's conference is all about helping you stay ahead of this fast evolving world of B2B sales. So today we have gathered some of the most brilliant minds in the industry to explore what's working now, what's changing, and what you need to know about building world-class SDR teams and how to boost your cold outreach, outbound sales, and sales performance.
Throughout the day, we will hear from leading experts on everything, from personal branding to effective outreach strategies, sales metrics, and of course, how AI is reshaping the landscape of B2B sales. We will also dive deep into panel discussions, focusing on real-world challenges and solutions for sales development leaders.
And before we dive into our sessions, our conversation, we would love to hear from you. Please drop your name, your job title, where are you joining us from in the chat. So let's take this opportunity to build some connections. Also, I've encouraged you to ask your question throughout the conversation. Why? Because at the end of the conference, we will be giving away some really cool yearly Reply subscriptions. So the more questions you ask, the better chances to win. So stay tuned till the end of the conversation, and let us know in the chat what's your name, what's your job title, and where you're joining us from.
That's always super interesting to learn about. Okay, and before we dive any deeper into today's sessions, we want to give a special shout out to our key conference partners. SmartReach AI, You Can Book Me, SendSpark, GrowthBand, and MailRiff. Let's give them a big round of virtual applause. Thank you, partners. And now, to set the stage for today's discussions, I want to share a vision of a major trend that is driving all the changes that we are talking about today. Let's take a moment to explore the impact of AI on sales development and what to expect in 2025. AI has disrupted outreach. What used to work doesn't anymore. Cold emails, mailing lists, basic automation, forget it. In 2024, we see that the rules have changed. And if we don't adapt, we're not just losing sales, we're falling behind. But here is the good news. AI isn't just the disruptor, it's also the solution. It's transforming how we sell. You may be wondering, why are we talking about AI today? Because we've reached a tipping point. But let's rewind to 2020, the first year of COVID. The world was in chaos, businesses were scrambling to go digital, and sales teams had a straightforward playbook: reach out as fast as possible. Grab a mailing list, shoot out some emails, and boom, results. It was all about volume. Fast forward to 2024, and that approach is not just outdated, it's ineffective. Today, every business is using automation. Every sales team is sending emails. Digital noise is deafening. As buyers, we become experts at turning it out. What used to be a cold email goldmine has now turned into a black hole. Now, only personalization and relevance matter. Think about it. Teams today aren't sending generic cold emails anymore. Instead, they are triggering outreach based on website visits, buyer intent signals, and sophisticated data points, none of which would be possible without AI for most businesses. The kind of personalization and data-driven targeting that once cost enterprises a fortune is now available to everyone. Whether you're a scrappy startup or established enterprise, you have the same tools to win. AI enables us to personalize at scale. It's not just about automating the process. It's about making it better, smarter decisions with real-time data. And this shift is creating new opportunities for sales teams. AI isn't replacing us. It's empowering us to do what we do best, but at a much larger scale. So, what we can expect in 2025? First, cold outbound is on its way out. In its place, we're seeing the rise of warm outbound. AI helps us track intent signals, whether someone is visiting your website or searching for solutions or hiring for relevant roles. Instead of cold outreach, you are engaging with people who are already showing interest. As this shift unfolds, the structure of SDR and BDR teams will evolve. We're already seeing teams split into two. One side focusing on managing AI and automation, while the other transitions to more strategic AE-like roles. AI will handle the heavy lifting, allowing your team to focus on their strengths. At Reply, we've seen this transformation firsthand. We've developed AI-powered SDRs that use live data to engage with prospects in real time. We're building intense signals and already launched the integration with RB2B for warm outreach. And we're offering AI chat to engage traffic that lands on your website. These AI agents don't just automate tasks. They drive meaningful conversations, freeing up human teams for high-level tasks. But as we move forward 2025, hybrid selling powered by AI will become the new norm, especially for tech companies. These businesses increasingly leverage automation to guide customers through personalized funnels, whether product-led or sales-led. Imagine a prospect signing up for a free trial. AI tracks their engagement to the product, considering external signals, and then triggering a sales process when they meet key qualifications. Sales development teams will play a critical role in supporting this mid-bound strategy, where AI automation meets human interaction. SDRs and BDRs will need to work closely with growth teams to design seamless experiences that combine automated workflows with personalized touchpoints. As we move through today's sessions, I encourage you to think about how you can leverage AI not just for automation, but to strategically level up your team in 2025. Thank you. Vlad, over to you.
Olivia, thanks as always for your keynote and your insightful keynotes. Agree. I think AI is clearly not just changing how we do cold outreach. It's like transforming entire sales development teams. And yeah, I think that's definitely the future, and it's an exciting one. I think because we already can see lots of AI agents for different implementations of AI in different use cases. For example, here at Reply, we use AI agents for support, and it already helps our support team handle almost like 30% of like our in-support inquiries. So that's one of the use cases. So when we go through the chat, so thanks for being active there. I can see we have lots of people, lots of SDR people and SDR leaders, BDR leaders from New York, Just Sales Job, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm only here for the Dean MVP. Cool. Yeah, I also love following David here. Thomas, business development manager. Hey everyone, strategic coach. Hi, I'm Ukrainian, living in Berlin, SDRs. Welcome, Mariana. South Africa, living in France, from Ukraine. Oh, cool, lots of people from Ukraine. And we have a bunch of questions here. So I guess you're already starting asking your questions. That's awesome. And Lucy is asking, will these be recorded and sent out? Yes, we will send you the recording. Will we receive the recording, the slides? For sure. I think we will send everything as a one email with all slides, with all recordings, with all presentations and decks. So stay tuned. And yeah, I guess you will receive everything. Hello, everyone. We already answered it. Director of Sales Development, Pennsylvania. Hey, Liz. Cool. RevOps. Oh, interesting. So right, so let me check. We are waiting for our first presentation. All right. So hello everyone. So yeah, before we jump to the our session, let me introduce our panelist: Elric, fractional outbound leader from the Outbound Kitchen; Catherine, Vice President of Business Development of Fivetran; and David, VP of GTM and Dinmo. And thanks everyone for joining, and welcome everyone. Nice to see you today.
Great to be here. Thanks, Brad.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. Cool. So let's get started. I guess we will have quite interesting panel discussion today. Before we jump to the questions, so I also encourage you to ask your question in the chat. We will just grab some interesting ones and we'll just incorporate them into the conversation, or we'll ask our experts closer to the.
That's all right.
Oh, we've lost the host.
Cool. So before we start, here's an intro question for every one of you here. To kick off things off, could you each of you maybe introduce yourself and share a little bit about your journey to becoming maybe an SDR, maybe an SDR leader? What's your journey? And maybe let's get started with Elric.
Sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Eric. So today, like you were saying, I'm working on my solo business. I'm a fractional outbound leader. But before that, I was in SaaS, and I'm still working with SaaS customers, but I was in SDR for 3 years and then in SDR leadership for 3 years. And I've sold to go-to-market leaders, data leaders, HR leaders, and B2C marketing leaders mainly. And yeah, I used to be an SDR, and then I moved to SDR leadership. That's pretty much it on my side.
What about you, Catherine?
Hi, everybody. My name's Catherine. I'm the VP of Global Business Development over at Fivetran. And gosh, I've been in the SDR world for, almost 20 years now. I've been leading teams, never in AE, always just leadership and sales development, which has been good. But I've also been able to really see how this role has changed and evolved over time. And just listening to the team talk about AI and how we're transforming things and ways to develop in 2025 has been really eye-opening for even me. I'm always learning, right? But I would say that probably the most important thing that I'm going to take away from today's session is really how to become even more organized and prepare. So get out your notebooks, your pens, your little AI transcriber, and we're all going to learn from each other today.
Cool. By the way, I just started listening to your podcast with David Delani from Sales Development podcast, and it was almost 8 years ago. And wow, you're so long in this space. So it was pre maybe even automation era.
Oh, definitely way before automation. I tell my BDRs that I used to make cold calls just actually dialing. Using the finger on it with a big fat headset. And we didn't have, I remember when Discover.org started and when they were acquired, and it was it opened up our world to being able to find prospect data, or when LinkedIn even started. So really excited to see where we're at now.
Yeah, great. And what about you, Dad?
Hey, really great to be here, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm David. If you don't know me, I started my career working for a small company called HelloFresh. I was a door-to-door salesperson for them, commission only, and built kind of their team up in Australia, and then I joined Cognism, which is, I assume, something that most people here know. Cognism is a contact data tool. I was at Cognism for 6 years. I grew the SDR team from 4 to over 100 when I left. And then I very recently joined a company called Dinmo to lead their whole go-to-market motion. Dinmo is the opposite of Fivetran. We're the other side of the data warehouse. And one of my new hires has just booked in their first meeting in front of me as we speak. So lots of celebration if you can hear it in the background.
Cool. By the way, probably as far as I know, Cognism has pretty much maybe one of the biggest SDR teams in Europe, I guess, right?
It's pretty big. Yeah,
big,
we were fairly aggressive. Pretty big team. I think there's some other massive ones, but it was a pretty big team.
Cool. All right. So follow-up question here. So maybe why did you choose to become an SDR leader, maybe rather than just an account executive, maybe an enterprise account executive, sales leader, vice president of sales? What's your journey? Catherine.
I guess I was just really good at being an SDR and just kind of went up through the ranks. I think, as I was trying to figure out what to do next in my career, what I learned was I had to ask for what I wanted. So I just walked into my boss's office and I said, hey, look, like, you're obviously looking for a manager or a supervisor. I want to be that person for you. And he's like, oh, wow, I didn't know you were interested in that. So I asked for the role, I interviewed for the role, and I got it. And, not always, the top performer is always going to be the best leader, right? That's something that I've learned as I interview SDRs to move through management. But I think what's really important is that you want to constantly keep getting in the weeds and learning new techniques if you plan on being a leader of an SDR organization. There's something really exciting about the hunt. There's also something really exciting about watching people promote. I mean, we've promoted over 10 SDRs at Fivetran just recently into AE roles, into CSM roles, into renewals roles. So this is the foundation of any organization. And if you can master this, you can pretty much do anything out there. And so for me, watching people flourish in their careers has really been rewarding.
Awesome. Over to you.
Sure. So pretty similar to Catherine, actually. But on top of that, I would add that early in my career, I didn't have like great managers or great coaches. So for me, it was like an additional reason to be in leadership, to say, okay, if I'm leading a team, I don't want to be the first coaches and managers I had in my career. So that was also the main reason why I moved to leadership and not to Nero.
And you, David?
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo Catherine and Elric, that for me, I felt it was really rewarding to support others more than anything else, and genuinely get a lot of motivation from that. I totally understand people that just want to focus on their own stuff and own their own world. But for me, I think helping others would counteract that. I would add, though, I'm toxically competitive, like so toxically competitive that if I remained in IC, then people start really hating me. And then the other factor was, and this is a bit more practical, but at the time at Cognism, it was where I felt I could add the most value to the company, like truthfully. So, they needed someone to run the SDR team. They didn't really need an AE. So I took the role, and then I was adding tons and tons of value. I felt like I was adding tons and tons of value there. So I kind of stayed on that path for a long time.
Oh, cool. So we can see, like I would say, quite great pattern here. So, because probably all keen on helping other people. That's great, helping them grow. That's probably one of the best motivations, like to help others become more successful. Cool. All right, let's get started. Maybe with question when it comes to building your SDR team. So, question here number one is, what were your biggest challenges when you started building your SDR teams? What other SDR leaders should focus on? So maybe they can apply your best practices here.
I mean, I would say it depends on the size of your organization, right? If you're just a small startup and you're coming in and you're trying to build out your team, you're going to really look at it differently than if you walk into a large organization the way that I did at Fivetran or at Anaplan or at Apttus, right? So as a small startup, I would recommend using an outside agency. I mean, I love hiring in an SDR from the ground up, but when you come in as an SDR leader, you don't always know what that total addressable market looks like. You don't know if the messaging is resonating. So in order to hit the ground running, I always build a use case for using a company like Memory Blue or Operatics that I know Memory Blue just recently purchased if you're in EMEA and you need language resources, right? And starting off there and really testing out the market, and then using another company like Always Hired that can come in and give you those SDRs that are already trained and ready to go. Because in a small startup, you want to hit the ground running, right? You want to get your tools in order. So while the Memory Blue is moving over here on this side, you're getting your tools in order. And then you have an Always Hired that's out there training your SDRs that you want to bring on staff, right? So for me, that's really where I start if I'm a really small organization. But if I'm a larger organization and I'm coming in think you really have to take a step back and just watch the team for a good 30 days, 30 to 60 days, and understand what their processes are and what's working and what's not working before you do make any changes. I think a lot of the times when SDR leaders come in, they just kind of blow everything up. And I'm like, you could be destroying something that is actually working, right? And each industry and each type of messaging in larger organizations has a way of resonating. So just take a step back and listen, and you can make different tweaks and levers with the people that you have in place. You don't always need to just blow it up, in my opinion.
Elric, maybe you, the next one.
Sure. So for me on my side, only work like at a startup most of the time in early stage startup. So for me, the main challenge is educating the founders on outbound mainly because most of the time they don't have experience with outbound in the past. And so that's the first step. And most of the time, I'm not the first person building the team. They already hired junior SDRs, thinking that junior SDRs, they will be able to figure out outbound from scratch. And I think it's really what Catherine was saying about hiring like an agency, for example, to help in the early stage. Here, basically, they wanted to build everything from scratch and didn't work. They had like a manager building the team, but this person doesn't know anything about outbound. So the main challenge for me when I joined the company is this challenge. So it's trying to see if we need to hire externally first before starting everything, because most of the time is we don't have the right people at this stage. We need people with more experience, and we need because we don't have at this stage, most of the time we don't have like any training, coaching programs in place. So we need people who are already with experience that don't need to rely on training, coaching to be successful in this world. So yeah, educating the founders or the salesperson for the sales leader, depending on the stage. But I would say that's my main change most of the time.
Awesome. Me next?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I think for me, those are all great answers. But I think for me, it's similar to Elric again, but it's the culture in general. So it's either if you're going in as the first hire and building everything from scratch, it's setting the culture. For you moving into a team, it's changing the culture, and then also it's this upward management of kind of making sure that you are able to explain to the rest of the company why you're saying you need the culture to be the culture that it is. And like really for me, it's, a super responsive team that's highly curious, highly motivated. I've just joined the company that I've just joined is they only had product and tech people. They're French headquartered, and maybe Elric, please don't take any offense when I say, or any French people listening. But the first day I arrived at the office in Paris, I arrived at 8:50 and nobody turned up till 10 o'clock. And it turns out that they kind of start their day at 10, finish at 7. They get the full working day in. But so we needed to rebuild the structure. They need and anybody coming in, they needed to understand that this is how the SDR team operate, and it's going to be really different. And we're going to be highly responsive, and we're going to be shooting messages everywhere and over communicating, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, I think that would be the biggest challenge usually.
Cool, awesome. So I guess it's like communication with decision makers, C-level, founders, then thinking how to build everything from the scratch, how to start it, how to motivate your team, and how to have this sales development culture. I would say great culture for your SDR team. Cool. So we have a bunch of questions. I will go through them and we'll ask them a little bit later. Now let's proceed with the next one. So we will keep asking questions about SDR teams. And the next one, what skills and training should SDR leaders focus on future success in 2025? Because again, like the landscape is changing and we'll pretty much need maybe something different next year? Or what do you think? How like what skills and training should SDR leaders focus on for future success in 2025? Catherine.
That's a great question. And it really depends on the type of leaders that you have underneath you, right? And what their current skill set is. So depending on, we're talking about a range here, right? But one of the first things that I did when I came into Fivetran was I built out a business case to actually have an SDR enablement person underneath us, right? So they only focused on SDR. And a lot of the times I think SDR gets lost in the sales cycle and they try to treat them like they're AEs. And then they're like, oh, but they're just marketing. And then they follow up on MQLs. And it's like, no, there's a whole band of skills that you really want to hone in on, right? But I would really say this. I would lessen your tech stack, focus only on a couple of set tools, and utilize those tools to align to the skill set that you have in seat right now, and make sure that you're capturing adoption. I think a lot of the mistakes that SDR leaders make is that they spend a lot of money on different tools. And that, number one, is fiscally irresponsible for your organization, but also your team isn't using them because there's a new shiny object over here, new shiny object over there. So you're really not capitalizing. So utilizing those tools to really provide the best messaging that puts your organization with the best spotlight for your total addressable market, right? So focusing in on outbounding, persona messaging, and like using a tool, for example, like a demand base that comes in and really drives to that AI feature, looking at that intent data and understanding what the business use case is that your organization can bring. You can see how that ties in all of the enablement around messaging, tool adoption, and being able to transcribe that into actually brand messaging for your organization. So I would really hone in on that. And not everything. I would really look at what you're using and narrow it down to one or two tools that will really benefit your organization, and understanding all the functionality in those tools. It's something that we're doing right now, and it's really beneficial for my team. And we're getting those vendors to come in and actually do enablement sessions for our team, making sure that the team understands how to use every aspect of the tool, because it's really making my team even more efficient and effective.
Great, thanks. Noted. We will we'll summarize some of your ideas after every round of the questions. So in the chat, everyone, I guess we have lots of SDRs and account executives in the chat. Maybe let us know in the meantime what skills and training maybe your SDR leader should focus for your future success in 2025. Let's see maybe what's like what SDRs feel here. So it might be interesting. So. David, what about you? What should SDR leaders focus on?
Yeah, so I totally agree that if you can afford it, definitely, or if your company has the capacity, definitely bringing in someone to focus on SDR enablement is really important. I'd say, like, for me, the most important thing is continuous training, and less so like exactly like one key skill. I find that often when I'm speaking to other SDR leaders and talking about training, there's a tendency to bring in some outside help on like one specific topic for like one day or week, and then that be it. And there's like, you know, people are human, so they learn it for that week, they get motivated by it for a week, and then they forget it again. So I've just always been a believer. I've been a believer for the past, you know, like 7 years of being in the space. Like the focus is just every week we're doing a different piece of training, and then we keep reinforcing it over and over again. And actually, like, generally how I build my training models is I pick like, you know, 20 different topics, or it doesn't really matter what the number is, but I basically have like 3 months worth of training, and then I just repeat that same training again, and I repeat that same training again. And my reps hate me because they're doing the same training over and over again, but it's you know, it just keeps reinforcing the points until you become an expert. So yeah, for me, like, you know, and always not specific to 2025, but like continuous training is the most essential piece.
Heather?
Yep. For me, I think the main skill is problem solving. And what I mean by that is because most of the time the companies I used to work at, we already have an SDR team or other type of motion. So for example, I'm going to give like a recent example. When I joined the company, we had like, the goal was to build the outbound function, but we already had like a lot of inbound demo requests. And we were still managing the demo requests. So the first step was, okay, but before building outbound, are we doing everything right on the inbound funnel? Because yes, we can build everything from scratch from outbound, but outbound, we know that it's a long-term motion. It can take 6 months to start getting results. So are we doing everything right on the demo request funnel? Yes or no? And the answer was no. So before starting on outbound, that's what we decided to fix. So if I'm talking about problem solving, is it a problem? Is it, for example, what was the conversion rate from someone fill out the form to a demo booked on his calendar? And the answer was 30%. So can we do more? Do we have any internal resources to do more? Do we want to have an SDR? And so the question was more around prioritizing where we should be focusing on, because yes, we can train the team on, for example, on cold calling, but if we can already get more results with what we already have, yeah, let's start focusing on the quick fix. So for me specifically here, it was checking all the funnels we had. So we had demo requests, free trials, everything coming from marketing, and outbound. And outbound was the last one because we had so many things coming from marketing. And so that's how we started to work on. And then starting to evaluate if we have the resources internally, meaning that does the RevOps person can help us on fixing this? Yes, no. Do we need to bring a tool? Because Catherine was talking about tools specifically, and the way I was thinking about bringing a tool, it was to fix a problem, not just to, okay, we need to use a tool, for example, just for the sake of using a tool. No, we bring these tools because we need to fix that. This company, basically, we bought Lindela, for lead routing and also for scheduling. So because before that, we didn't have anything for the demo request process. So yeah, I would say, yeah, problem solving, I would say it's a big skill that you should focus on as an SDR leader.
Problem solving. Oh, I like it. I like it. Enablement, tools, proper training. Again, tools. We had a question probably from SDR, Sandra. A quick follow-up question here. Training around email deliverabilities. This one is getting harder. Email messaging, basically copywriting, and then relationship building, especially around social selling. What do you think about like social selling training and this as a skill, social selling as a skill in 2025? Do you have something in my head?
That's where we're getting most of our meetings is through LinkedIn now. Emails have to be a follow-up to a voicemail or to LinkedIn. And you want to let someone know, hey, look, like I reached out to you via email, so take a look if you can. But voice notes on LinkedIn, I think, are super important. I think really persona messaging and being concise, right? There's nothing worse than getting a connection request and someone's like, and now I'm going to pitch you a tool. Please don't do that. Please stop doing that. I can't tell you how many people I decline because of that. I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. Like you just catfished me. So not interested, right? But I have reached out to lots of people that have pinged me on LinkedIn and they're like, hey, look, like you obviously run large teams. This is how it could benefit you. Let's have a conversation. That's awesome. Like be real with like we're all human beings, right? Like just be real. We know you're going to pitch us something, but somehow tie it back to my business. I think that's super, super important. But also what's super important that I'm trying to get my BDRs to even do, and this is a tip, is, you've got your prospects. You can see what your prospects are doing online. And as you're commenting on things that they comment on, they're reading through those comments. So provide some sort of brand messaging, to what Ulrich said earlier, provide something that gets them to come to your website and become an inbound MQL. Show them. You can easily use your website and you can easily say, oh, that's a great idea. Have you thought about reading this over here? And then now you've got the whole string of people looking at what you've just posted on without being so salesy about it. There's ways to go about social selling. And I think it's really important, bring in LinkedIn, utilize them. They can teach you how to do all of this stuff. But then there's also tons of outside consultants that come in and teach your BDRs how to do LinkedIn trainings and how to social sell even more. I think it's a huge market that's been untapped.
Elric, what do you? Thanks, Elric.
Of course. So for social selling, if we talk about social selling specifically, something I thought in the past was as a SDR BDR, you need to have like a personal brand, and I think you don't need that as an SDR. You just need to optimize your profile because, like Catherine was talking about, social selling specifically, people are going to check your profile before, for example, replying to you. So first step, optimize your profile. Focus on your buyer persona, how you can help them, the challenges that you can help them solve. And then on LinkedIn specifically, for me, there is two things. Is this person active on LinkedIn or not? And because for me, it's the process will be different for both of them. So if they're active, I'm going to check what they do, what they comment on, and I want to use that to start a conversation with them. If they are not active on LinkedIn, I'm still going to pitch, but it's relevant to them. It's relevant to their business. And I'm going to give an example because I know Catherine and David, they work also on data leaders. So a year ago, I was working for a company selling to data leaders, and 95% of the prospects, they are not active on LinkedIn. And something I learned talking to them was maybe they connect once or twice a month on LinkedIn. So I'm not going to start starting conversation with them, because if they're going on LinkedIn every 3 weeks, and I'm asking a question, and well, I'm not going, it's a waste of time. But a guy say yes, for example, on a meeting. He was the data governance leader in France for a big company. He said yes to a meeting and disappeared. And I said, well, okay. I tried to find his phone number. I had his email address, didn't reply. And then 3 weeks after, he replied, he said, oh, sorry, I didn't go on LinkedIn for the past 3 weeks. Yeah, I'm done for the meeting. So yeah, just book some time in your calendar. And for those specifically, what I learned is I was using something relevant about them and to pitch what we are doing on the problems that we could solve. But because I learned that, yeah, not everyone is spending their time on LinkedIn every day. And so for technical buyer personas, that's something I learned last year. So.
Thanks. David, and you, what do you think about social selling skill?
Yeah, I again agree with everything. I'll just add that I think when people think about social selling, they think about trying to become a LinkedIn celebrity. I think you can tell from the way Catherine and Elric are speaking, that's not the goal. In fact, usually it's a distraction. And so it's a pre-warning now that actually, generally I find that people are trying to do it because they think that there's a massive shortcut, and they will do one post and then suddenly 10 people will arrive at their door and say, hey, I'd love your platform. So I do really promote you posting and trying to build a following. I think it's great for your career long term, but always do it as kind of like the side hustle to for me, picking up the phone, but also reaching out to people on LinkedIn and using it for that. However, there is definitely value in posting to build to essentially build trust with your buyers. Like if you're posting about something that's relevant, you're hopefully showing your buyers that your prospects that your stuff.
Great.
But don't get too distracted by it.
Great suggestion. Also, but when I was in SDR, I just started randomly posting some useful content, and then I didn't realize that it could be useful for future career development. So maybe social selling, you can transform it in something else in the future. So that's a great suggestion. Cool, thanks. Because sounds like Catherine, your idea in terms of social selling skill resonated with lots of people in the chat. So cool. All right, the next question. Maybe it's a quick one, a brief one. How do you ensure that SDR teams remain motivated, in a high pressure? Because I feel like it's a super high pressure, rejection heavy role. So how do you motivate your SDRs to stay productive? let's get started with Elric. Yeah.
Sure. So for me, what works, I'm going to mention what works for me and my teams. So I start always trying to understand what motivates them outside of work. It's not like about spiff or stuff like that. Most of the time for me, it's for each SDR, I know what they're working on outside of their job. So are they getting married this year or next year, for example? Do they want to buy a house? Because if you think about setting goals personally versus the quota that the company is giving them, it's different. And if you understand why they are in sales, why they are in SDR, and how this job can support their personal goals, for me, that's the way I motivate them, because it's easier than to have like a conversation about, okay, but you mentioned that you wanted to, I don't know, save money for your down payment for your house, for example. So you said that you need $500 per month for this down payment, for example, and it's easier for me to tie that to motivate them to their personal goal. And yeah, that's what I'm using mainly with my team.
Catherine?
Yeah, I mean, I think every single one of your SDRs has a different motivation for being successful. I mean, we run a ton of spiffs here. Like during the Olympics, we ran a spiff that tied to current events that were happening. You know, in America, we tend to run a March Madness, which is college basketball out here. But what I've noticed across the board is the biggest motivator for BDRs is their career path. And being able to show them, hey, look, like if you can consistently hit your quota, the world opens up for you within this organization. And you have to hit these different milestones. So keeping them on track with that in their one-on-ones, holding them accountable to career development really has set the stage for motivating my team, particularly. You know, we have a very robust career path that they can take. We've outlined it in a PowerPoint. It's on our slab so that they can always refer back to it. We're constantly referring back to it when it comes to attaining their quota for the month, for the quarter, for the year. It doesn't hurt to get your BDRs into President's Club if you're doing President's Club. That's always a big motivator for my team. But I would say really lean in hard to that career motivation. And even for outside of your org, they can put on their LinkedIn profile, tying it back to your brand again, right? They can put on their LinkedIn profile, how many times have they hit quota? You know, were they the top performing BDR on their team? You know, how did they increase their skill sets? So that's what we really use as a motivator across my org.
Got it. So like probably like to have a clear career path, maybe playbook for your SDRs. David, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard me going last, but yeah, I agree with career path. I think like I'm really big on career path, so you know you've got to have a clear career path. I'm going to speak specifically to the question though, because it's just so that I can add some value. It is a really rejection heavy role. There are techniques that you can build, or like a culture that you can build within the team, so that rejection doesn't hurt so much. And it's the small things, like I really believe that SDRing is a team sport, you know, like we go way over the top on celebrating each other's wins. Like generally from a cultural perspective, we build channels where some of the recordings of the calls, like the calls that are really bad, where you get really, really badly rejected, they're then going in there to joke about like how badly you got rejected, right? So you're just making light of the situation. So I think what Elric and Catherine were talking about was really the long-term stuff, but there is some stuff in the short term that can really help. And one of those, it goes back to the culture element, is like how can you make it so that when someone like gets rejected, like how they can bounce back really quickly. And I think being able to use each other, like, you know, the people around you, your peers, if you, as a leader, if you can build those connections, then it's good. You're going to be in a much better place for it.
So like to have a culture maybe of it's hard to explain it. Culture when you like celebrate those rejection and you all laugh about those. Like,
Yeah.
again, I see. Cool.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah, and I, you know, like I've got a maths background, so I think one of the things that I was never the bestseller. In fact, I'm still not the bestseller in any capacity. But one of the things that I think was really useful for me is that like I kind of added a mathematical element to my to the rejections. You'll hear people talk about like every no is getting me closer to a yes. Like I was actually a really big believer of that. I knew statistically, like if I spoke to X amount of people, then I get X amount of meetings. So I just need to get through those X amount of people.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So we have just 3 minutes. But you still have so many cool questions. So let maybe ask you two like quick questions. Number one, maybe how do you see how AI changing and reshapes the SDR role? Maybe use any tools, any recommendations. So like, what do you think about AI sales development role and how to reshape it?
I mean, I think AI is great. I think a lot of people are really nervous that it's going to like replace an SDR. And I'm like, no, that's just not going to happen. Right. But I say use AI in a meaningful, valuable way. Don't abuse it. Don't go into ChatGPT and start writing all your emails there. I think using AI, around intent data, using Nooks, we have a Nooks instance here at Fivetran, and we're able to use AI to show us, who's engaging with us, what are our best buyer personas. Using that to really whittle down who we should be speaking to, I think is really important as you are a BDR, especially if you have an outbounding team. If it's your inbound team, you can use AI to really see who's engaging on your website with you, how to interact with them. You can use it in so many different ways, whether it's through messaging, whether it's through intent data, whether it's through just in general, like learning a little bit more about your industry. I would totally capitalize it, because if you're not, then you are behind. I will say that you're very, very behind if you don't want to just embrace it and find a way to embrace some form of it. You don't have to use it for everything, but embrace some form of it.
Thanks. David, what do you think?
Yeah. So I believe that the role AI is playing is to make SDRs better equipped. I totally agree. There's no way it will replace it. If it started replacing it, the government would step in and stop it, because nobody, because everybody would get a million phone calls and a million emails and all the channels would be just totally dead. So it's never going to replace it for those reasons. But you are going to be better equipped. I do have a tool that I live and die by, and that is Second Body. It's a AI sales enablement platform that's basically designed to, for SDRs to go on and role play with AI, so that they're more prepared for when they actually make the call. And it's such a fantastic, I was mentioning continuous learning earlier. I invested, 5 years ago, I was investing tons and tons of time on that continuous learning element, because I was always having to like think every, I was spending time like preparing like training, etc. Nowadays I use Second Body just to, I basically write a persona that I want Second Body to be, and then I ask each, automatically click a button, and every single one of my reps is then having a conversation or like trying to sell to that persona in the morning, and that's the way they start the day. So straight away, like I'm getting that, I'm getting everybody role playing, preparing themselves, ready for the day, focused on objections that we want to handle, and then moving on. So that's a super cool piece of kit that I highly recommend anybody checking out.
Elric,
Yeah, pretty similar to what David was saying about, we were not using Second Body, but we were using ChatGPT, the paid version of it. You can role play. Also, you can pitch, give a brief to ChatGPT to say, okay, let's role play this. But I think using your sales tool specifically could be better. But for me, the main use case with AI is account research. That with AI, you can save so many hours of research per week just by using AI. So I don't know right now if there is like a better tool than that, but I don't know if you're familiar with Perplexity, but Perplexity is like it's Google with ChatGPT, and it's so great for account research. Basically, you can find the last annual report of the company. You can find the last earning call. And what you can do on top of that is being specific about what you are looking for inside of it, and is it relevant to what you sell, so the problem that you're helping with, or the initiative that you can help with. So you can basically, in less than 2 minutes, you can find a lot of information that maybe take you 20 minutes to 30 minutes for each account, and then you can have a talk track for each one of your accounts. And I think AI is definitely supporting the SDR function for that specifically.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So great. I guess AI will just enable SDR teams. So thanks for sharing those real great tools. Okay, thanks our panelists for this fantastic insights. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Elric. Thank you, David. Super happy to have this conversation with you. And let's have a next presentation with Troy, a CEO at Demo, on personal branding on LinkedIn and social selling. Troy?
Hey, Vlad, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you? All good. Man.
I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thanks. So thanks for joining us. Okay, so take it away, and I will just disappear.
Let's get to it here. So I'm going to start by asking a quick question. And I know sometimes these can be delayed, so if the question or the answer is coming a little bit later, I'll go ahead and get into it regardless. But give me a comment or just say anything, whatever. It doesn't really matter what you say, but if you've ever thought about building or you are building a personal brand on LinkedIn right now. Thanks, Early GTM. Thank you. Yeah, so if you've thought about building a personal brand or you are building a personal brand, drop a comment, drop whatever you want. Again, don't care what you drop, just make it appropriate. While we get that going, let me at least share my screen. Cool. I see one yes so far. Yep. Okay, look at this. Hold on, it's making me accept some things here. Window. Cool. Awesome. Yes, but never did. Hey, it's okay. It takes a lot of time and it's a lot of work and it's stressful and it's kind of embarrassing, to be completely honest. All right, so I'm sharing my screen. It looks like you can see everything in the workshop, thought of it, posted a bit, but then consistency is tough. Yes, it is tough. And it's actually the hardest part of it is just continuing to do it, continuing to engage and entertain people and things like that. It's really, really tough. So I wanted to come here and just talk about a few things. One, how to build a personal brand. Let's click here. I just asked this question. So how to build a personal brand, but also how to kind of stick with it, how to create content tips and how to create more of like I called it a content waterfall in this post. I don't know if there's a word for it, but how to continue to create content when you feel like you have nothing else to write about, nothing else to post. And you're just sitting there with, brain fog, not figuring out, hey, what should I post today? Because I posted for the last 40 days in a row. I really want to hit number 41. Everybody runs into it. I run into it to this day. And I've been posting for about 2 years straight. Now I don't post on weekends, but when I first got into it, I was posting every day. So looks like we have a lot of yeses in here, which is awesome. So this session should be really helpful for you. Let's first start with what you should not do. And I have a personal story here, but you should not steal content. So a lot of people will find other posts that they see and they're like, oh, this is such a great post. I'm just going to copy and paste it and maybe change 2 or 3 words. Don't do that. Like, the entire part of building a personal brand is following you for who you are as a person. And I think that over here at Demo, it's why Demo has been so successful, is because people have been able to follow me and they're like, oh, this is like Troy's brand. And he's very personable. And he's just like, he is who he is. He's not sitting here putting on a front. Like, I'm not going to act like a completely different person just because I'm posting stuff on LinkedIn. Like, I'm Troy, so I'm going to share Troy. But one thing that people do, and I see that, engagement pods are dead. They should have been dead long ago, right? And so, one, don't steal content. It's very easy to do, especially when you have, when you are having that brain fog that I mentioned. It's extremely easy to not really know what to post, and you see a good one, you're like, hey, I'm going to take that, and then I'm just going to kind of spin it into my own way, and then post it. Some people just copy and paste. That's the worst of the worst. Some people copy, change a few words, and then paste. But then you can take an idea, right? You can take a subject somebody's talking about and then make a post about it. That's perfectly fine. The second one is my personal story. Commenting on a large influencer's post. So if you comment on a large influencer's post, as soon as they post, chances are your comment will get a lot of engagement. And back in the day when I first started 2 years ago, I thought this was a hack. I was like, yes, Justin Welsh, He's so famous, he's so big, and everybody that wants to create a brand on LinkedIn is following him. And so I'm going to post. I literally set like the bell notification. So at 7:15 every single day, he would post. 7:16, I sat there, I refreshed the page. I made sure that I was like one of the first 5 comments, and I would make the comment something relative to what his post was, just so it wasn't like great insights, which another thing, don't just say like great insights and stuff like that. Yeah, I see somebody's guilty in here. Hey, we all do it. And that's perfectly fine. If that large influencer has an audience that is your ICP, that's perfectly fine. Those are the people that you want to engage with. That is the brand that you want to build. That is the audience that you want to come in towards your authenticity and your post and everything. So that's fine. But what I realized was I was posting specifically for 2 people, marketing and sales. That's the only audience that I wanted to build in the beginning. But when I would go and comment on Justin Welch's, I would get a lot of people in the same boat as me, where we just want to grow our followers. We don't care about anything else except for follower count. That's how I was. It was just like, let's grow followers at all costs. And I did this for about 2 or 3 months. And then I realized every single person that was following me because of my comment was somebody that I did not want to interact with at all. I would never have lunch with, I would never talk to in real life, and I would never sell my product to because they didn't have a need for my product. So I was really guilty of just like running up that follower count in the very beginning. I'd comment on that post. And next thing you know, I had all these followers that just meant nothing. It gave me no value except for maybe a little bit of an ego boost there at the beginning of the day when I would check my follower count. So it's very easy to do. And then join an engagement pod. I know they're dead, but they're also still around, where there's like these Slack channels, and it's like there's a channel where it's like social posts, and you share your social posts with like 1,000 other marketers, and all these other marketers are like, hey, this is such a great post. Oh my gosh, I love this post. I don't think that that's the best way to build your audience. I've seen it done actually somewhat recently, where somebody kind of went against me and then got their I guess followers or whatever to be like, hey, screw you, Troy. So all that to say is these are the 3 things I would not do. So before we start about building a personal brand, this is where you want to start, is knowing what not to do when doing it. If you're trying to build like a brand that you have an end goal, right? Is your end goal to really run your own business? Is your end goal to generate more pipeline? Is your end goal really just to build a following and then at some point get paid for like advertisements? Lost the word there, but this is what we're not going to do. So now let's get into the things that we should do. So this is cliche and everybody's going to tell you this, but you got to start somewhere, and you really do. So I took 2 of my posts. I use Clio. There's no, I don't get paid to shout them out or anything, but I use Clio to just show me what my top posts are. And I looked at, hey, what did my post look like last year? And these are 2 posts from last year, 8 likes and 7 likes. Every single one of those likes were from people at the company that I worked at, nobody else. And I was like, screw it. I'm determined. I'm going to post every day, regardless if I look dumb. I had employees, I had friends always mocking me like, oh, you're trying to post on LinkedIn now, or oh, you're a LinkedIn guy or whatever. And I'd always get mocked. And then my friends would screenshot it, send it in a group chat, and just be like, ha ha ha. Like, at this point, I didn't care. My whole thing was, I'm going to use, I even told my wife this. I said, I'm going to use the year of 2023 as a stepping stone. And it was a pain. And I'm going to tell you why it was a pain. It takes a lot of time. LinkedIn is the platform where the more time you spend on it, the more you engage, the more you do, the faster you'll gain a following. But then that comes with sacrifices, and that sacrifices time, right? So when you're on the couch, I was on the couch like after eating dinner, and my son was climbing on me and stuff, and I'm just sitting there scrolling on my phone, liking things and, engaging with comments. Like, unfortunately, I put myself in that situation. I've been burnt out many times from LinkedIn, but I started and I told my wife, I said, 2023, it's going to be my building year. Let me just build on LinkedIn. I feel like there's something here. Okay. So this was last year, 8 likes, 7 likes, 3 comments, 4 comments, everybody that I worked with. All right. And when you start posting, that's great, but that's actually not where the fruitful stuff comes into play. It's not when you post. You can post every single day, but if you're not engaging, you're not going to grow that following count. You're not going to build your personal brand, and people won't know who you are. Hashtags on LinkedIn don't really work like hashtags on Twitter. A lot of people use hashtags on LinkedIn. I honestly don't think I've ever used a hashtag in my life on LinkedIn. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm lying to you. I don't know, but I don't use them ever. So maybe it was like way back when I first started. I have no idea. But how do we start engaging with your ICP? So the first thing is, this is what I did in the very, very beginning. I'm in a fortunate situation where I don't have to do this anymore, but this is what I did. And so I would say 25 or so meaningful connections a day. You don't need a count, but like, for example, if you're selling to marketers, go comment on Dave Gerhardt stuff, go comment on Chris Walker stuff, go peek through their comments and like go and build connections with them, right? Connect with the people that you want to get in front of that attaches to what your end goal is. Extremely important. Then comment on their post with purpose. Instead of just saying great post or sending a rocket emoji or a fire emoji, make a comment about the post. Put something a little bit more, put yourself out there a little bit more. Don't just do the bare minimum because you're trying to do a shortcut into fast growth. Try to make 20 comments a day. This is something that I always made sure that I did. I never counted to 20. I would just comment all day whenever I could and when I had free time to be on LinkedIn, and then thank them for their actions. So this is a really big way to start engaging with your ICP and warm up those connections. And what I mean by that is if they like your post, if they respond to one of your comments on their post, if they like one of your comments on their post, let them know. Say, hey, thank you so much for liking my post. Thank you so much for engaging with my comment on your post. That means a lot. And then you can go on and ask, second and third level questions after that. But thank them for the actions that they do. And then at the bottom here, I just wrote, do this for 30 days and then another 30 days and then another 30 days. And I promise you, you will see your follower count. You'll see, I don't ever look at impressions. I look at engagement. I want to make sure that my posts are engaging. So you'll see all of that stuff and all of those statistics grow month over month, week over week. And that's when it will start feeling good. It's just like working out. Just because you go to the gym tomorrow doesn't mean you're going to be jacked tomorrow. Doesn't mean you're going to have that six pack that you've been dreaming of. So it's just like that. You got to train this muscle, and over time it does become a habit. So that's what I would say. First, you got to just start posting. Second, start engaging. And you can flip these two. These two you can flip. There's no real secret sauce of which order to do this in. So if you want to engage first, and then you're like, all right, I finally built up the courage. People know me a little bit. I can make a post. Do it. That's fine. Doesn't really matter how you start, but you have to do these two things. You have to start and you have to engage. Then once you do that, you just got to continue, right? So then this is the beginning of this year. This was 11 months ago. I screenshotted this morning. So 11 months ago, I hit 10,000 followers. And this was a year after I started posting. And so I was really proud of myself. I made a post about it. This post right here that you see ended up having 380 likes or something. I think that's what it said this morning. So the more you do this, the more you engage, the more connections you build, the more people that you message and you have genuine messages with over DMs, you're going to start building up a brand and a name where it's like, hey, Troy's actually a good person. He's not in here trying to sell me or anything like that. And today, so this was 11 months ago. Today, I have almost 32,000 followers. So I posted twice a day for almost the entire time. So for 2 years in a row, I posted twice a day. I posted twice a day every single weekday right now. I got rid of weekends. I've been burnt out 5 times. There was a time where I took a 10-day break because I was so stressed, and I felt like it was an obligation of every single day. I had to come in here and ignore everything else that was going on in my life just to make sure that I kept up with what I was doing. So it's easy to burn out, and that's okay to burn out. Take a step back. Don't worry about it. At the end of the day, it's just LinkedIn. It's nothing crazy. It has changed my life. It has changed the way that I do business and the way that I meet people and the way that my business grows. But it's okay to burn out, and it's okay to take a step back. Just know that it really is. The world will not end. You'll still be here tomorrow. Your followers will still be there tomorrow. Don't worry about that. But a lot of people come up to me and they say, Troy, I don't have that many things to write about. So what in the world can I write about every single day? Chances are, if you're working a role, SDR, VP of sales, marketer, software engineering, it doesn't matter. If you're working a role, chances are that there's a lot of knowledge that you know, and there's a lot of things you do every single day, regardless of if it's the same thing every day. So if you're an SDR, cold calling, cold emailing, whatever it is, personalized outreach, right? You do a lot of stuff every single day. Okay. So the way that you can create a lot of content easily is you first have a topic, then you break that down into subtopics. And then after that, you give a personal story about each subtopic. And I'm going to give you an example here, okay? Because this is exactly how I go about writing my content. So my example is one of my topics. I have 4 topics that I write about, by the way: prospecting, sales cycle stuff, the journey of being like a CEO, and then getting hired for a job, because I was able to find different jobs just by reaching out directly to the people or to the hiring managers. So those are the 4 things I write about: entrepreneurship, prospecting, sales cycle, getting a job. Okay. This one, I'm going to just talk about prospecting. Great. So prospecting is the topic. The subtopics are, okay, I do LinkedIn prospecting, I do video prospecting, cold calling, and cold emails. Those are my 4 main prospecting channels. You can also throw creative prospecting in here as well. I do a lot of different creative things. So that's great. Now, let me just break these 4 into one, that LinkedIn one, right? Let's only talk about LinkedIn. Okay, well, I think about like, what have I done on LinkedIn? I remember that 208K deal that I closed. It came from a LinkedIn DM. Great. Here's how I closed a 6-figure deal starting from a LinkedIn DM. Okay, well, I use audio messages a lot. And while the person has to be in the right place to receive an audio message, I always say, hey, sorry if you're not in a good place for that. Let me know if you want me to write it in text instead. That's given me a lot of great responses. So how I use audio messages on LinkedIn. That's another thing just about LinkedIn that I can talk about. How to increase reply rates with videos. So how I use videos while I'm on a dog walk and things like that. So that's 3 things from LinkedIn video prospecting. Again, you have a topic. I recommend anywhere from like 2, 3, or 4 different topics. Break those down into subtopics, then break them down into personal stories. Everyone likes a personal story because you can resonate. All right. So it's good to know how to make money. Honestly, I don't really make money on LinkedIn. And it's because I run demo and we have to be an unbiased platform, but I've been reached out to shout out products. I'd say here's I'm going to derail this real quick. If you have anywhere from like 10,000 followers, I'd say 1 to 5% of your following is probably how much you can get paid per post. So if you have 10,000 followers, chances are you can make $100 to $500 per post, depending on your engagement levels. Could be more, could be less, but keep building. There is money to be made out there. I think my dog's about to come right behind me. All that to say is now once you do this with 4 different topics, and then you have many different subtopics and then many different stories for those subtopics, you have like 70 different things to write about. Repurposing these posts is huge. So there's a post that I post every single month, and it says my entire LinkedIn prospect or my entire prospecting strategy. It's the same post. I change up a little bit because some things do change when it comes to prospecting, but I post it every month. And the lowest amount of likes that one of them has gotten was 350. I post it every single month. Same exact thing, little bit of changes, but the same exact message. Really important to know that like just because you post something doesn't mean everybody saw it. Actually, because of their algorithm, chances are not a lot of people saw it. So don't be scared to repurpose a post. Don't be scared to look stupid as well. In the beginning, you're going to look dumb. And guess what? If it's a bad post, nobody sees it because they don't care to like it, right? So it's not going to get out there. Some things go viral and it's kind of embarrassing. But all that to say, let's get on to the next one here. So now we're learning how to build a brand, right? We learn about what to post. We learn about how to engage. We learn about getting in front of our ICPs and just starting and what to post about, right? So we've learned all that. Now it's time to actually get in front of these people that we're connected with and sell them. At this point, it's just building deeper connections. Okay. So warm them up, make the messages about them, provide them value without asking for anything, and just try to keep the conversation going. And I'm going to give you 2 examples here. The first example was done on me. I thought it was beautifully done. It's by Daria. She's starting to post a lot more. Her brand's actually starting to blow up. So we've seen Daria and you know her. But one thing that she did was she reached out to me about a post that I made. Like, did you really generate 1.6 million in revenue? I think the post had pipeline, but I let her know. I was like, hey, oh crap. Like, did I say the wrong thing? Anyways, all that to say, she started with asking me a question about a post that I had just made. So there was literally no ask. And then, do you use LinkedIn as a primary source for leads is something that she asked me. And that's when I knew, okay, she's going for the sell. I probably forgot to respond, or I was like, I don't need to respond right now. Right. And then she then apologized if she was bothering me. And at that point, it's like, you kind of, like, for me, when someone's like, hey, I'm sorry for asking you this, I want to respond. So I say no email. And then out of nowhere, she's just like, okay, well, hey, look, these companies are hiring these roles. If any of these, like, I want to give you this list because these could be hot targets for you to reach out to. Great way to just give something without ever asking me for really anything in return besides asking about LinkedIn being my main channel to source leads. But all that to say, an incredible way to just say, hey, by the way, this is for you. It can probably help you out. And then Daria and I still talk to this day. I never became a customer or anything because I ended up running my own gig, but an amazing way to reach out. Now, another example is something that I used to do at Proofpoint. Now, I used to target InfoSec people, so information security, cybersecurity people. The way that you talk to them is a little bit more formal and less casual for the most part. So this is an example of where I just say, hey, I've recently taken over North Carolina companies here at Proofpoint. We learned a lot about new threats, and that's true. Proofpoint caught more threats than any other company in the world when it came to email. And then it's, do you mind if I share with you any threats so you can get out in front of it? Like, my whole thing is, okay, I want you to have value so you don't get, excuse my language, your ass chewed out because you missed a threat. So a lot of people responded very well to this. I know, Olivia, I'm here at time, almost done. It's my last thing. So a lot of people say, a lot of people are like, yes, I really want to know. From there, I just say, okay, well, what kind of threats do you care about? Because then that gives me an idea of like, hey, what's going on in their organization? What are they focused on? What do they care about? You can do this with any industry that you're selling into, literally any. So that's another example right there. And last but not least, this is just the conclusion. Just start. You're going to look stupid at first. Engage with your connections. Create a writing waterfall, whatever that means. I just coined that term. I'll trademark it here soon. Provide value without an ask, and then just don't give up. You just got to keep posting, keep looking dumb, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Troy. That was really, really insightful. I would say step-by-step guide on building your personal brand on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Now, our next speaker is John Barrows, LinkedIn top sales voice, CEO at JB Sales, who will talk about how to transition from SDR to AE. John, over to you.
Thanks, Olivia. Hey, Olivia, can you see my screen just to make sure? All right, cool. Can everybody see my screen? Cool. All right. Well, I hope you can all see my screen and hear me chatting here. So appreciate you all joining today. Do me a favor, I'm joining the chat right now. Tell me thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and if you can see the screen. Anybody join the chat? All right, cool. All right, I can see the screen. Thank you very much. All right, cool. Well, it's good to see you all, and that was a pretty good intro into LinkedIn. For those of you who don't know me, John Barrows here. I'm going to chat a little bit about this transition from SDR to AE and why I think it is critical to deal with right now, as a matter of fact, because things are changing pretty fast right now. So again, but just real quick, not that it matters that much, but just to give you all some perspective of who I am. So LinkedIn top voice. I'm about 400,000 followers on LinkedIn. Been in the game. I realized I was member 36,541 on LinkedIn. So one of the first people on the platform. I was a huge proponent of it. So a lot of that stuff that Troy was talking about was really in line with what how I approach it. Also worked with some really cool companies over the years. So, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Box, all these companies, I've trained their teams on sales skills, right? Prospecting, negotiations, and everything else. And a huge part of my career has been dedicated to working with SDRs or BDRs in that initial phase to then help them execute, obviously, what they're doing, but then prepare them for AEs. And finally, I am all of the above. So I'm not a trainer here. I run my own little company. I'm only 2 people here. I do all my own prospecting. I do all my own negotiations. I manage all my deals. I do presentations like this. I'm flying to Barcelona later on today to do training. So I have to figure out a way to do this efficiently. And so everything that you're going to hear is stuff that I've either done or worked with people on doing, and I do every day, right? So feel free to go into chat and ask questions if you want, but I'll dive into it. The agenda for today is understanding the why you want to be an AE, first and foremost. There's a lot behind going through the motions and, okay, this is what we're supposed to do versus what you really want to do. Then knowing what it takes, right? Because SDR, BDR is a portion of the sales process. And I think one of the most important portions of the sales process, because if you don't have leads, you can't do anything else. And then how to prepare. Right? How to prepare to become that AE, and then what you can do right now, like literally today, what you can do right now to put yourself in the best position possible. All right. So with that, let's talk about what it takes and why you want to be an AE. I wrote a blog post a while back called "Stop Doing What You're Supposed to Do," and the concept of stop doing what you're supposed to do was the fact that a lot of us go through the motions. And we kind of get a job and then we kind of spend our 2 years doing whatever it is. And then we get promoted to the next one and promoted to the next one, not really thinking through if this is actually what we want to do. And that's a critical piece here. So what I do a lot, I also do some coaching on just personal development. One of the things I encourage you all to think about is taking a step back here. And that 5-year plan, the question, we always get that question in our interviews, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I used to think that was a stupid question. It's like, oh, I want to be a manager. Great. I still think that's a meaningless question in a lot of ways, but I think it's really important for us outside of that job to just think about 5 years out. Where do you want to be from a lifestyle standpoint? Forget about your job, forget about your money for a second here. Sit down and think through, like, what does life look like for you in 5 years? Do you have a partner? Do you have a house? Do you want to be traveling? Whatever that vision is for you, and then back in to what it's going to take to get there, including the job and the money that you need to make to do that. Because I have so many SDRs coming to me saying, hey, John, I'm not really happy with my current job. I'm looking to, get another one. Do you have any suggestions? And I always ask them, okay, well, what's your vision? What's your 5-year plan for yourself? And they're like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because ultimately, if you don't have that plan, I always say, like, if I don't have a plan, like, I'm going to be, say, dealing with this job, right? And I'm not happy. I'm gonna be eating a shit sandwich here, and I don't like it. So if I have a plan, then I know that this piece is going to get me to the next piece, to the next piece, to the next piece that's ultimately going to get there, then I'll eat that shit sandwich, man. I will wash floors if you want me to. I will take out the trash if you want me to. If it's going to get me to that next point in my career, that's ultimately going to get me where I want to go. But if I don't have a plan, I'm just going to go looking around for better tasting shit sandwiches, and they're never going to taste great. And so first and foremost is put a plan together for yourself and ask yourself, why do you really want to do this? And do you really know what it takes to be an AE, right? The SDR is, I think, one of the hardest jobs in sales. It's the lowest conversion ratio of every aspect of the sales process, right? So, I mean, you have prospecting to getting that initial discovery call, and then discovery call to demo to proposal, proposals to close deals. The rest of those conversion ratios, if you're in the 20, 30% range, you're doing okay. But prospecting, if you're batting 3%, 5%, you are an all-star. And so I think it's one of the hardest jobs, and that's why I think it's one of the most important ones. Everybody says, there's all these, I train negotiation, I train all this other stuff, but I'll tell you, there's one solution to every other problem at every other stage of the sales process, and it's a big fat pipeline. If you got a big fat pipeline, you don't have to worry about the rest of that stuff. I mean, as much, because you can put yourself in a position where you want the business, you don't need it. And when you want the business, you sell the right way. When you need the business, you do some shady stuff. And I'll tell you right now, for me, like a real talk, I grew this business to about my own. I started in about 2010, went back and forth, and finally grew the business to about 6 million in revenue and about 20 employees. And then at the beginning of 2023, the whole tech industry came to a screeching halt, and my business came to a screeching halt because 95% of my clients were in SaaS and tech. And so I had to restructure everything. But for me personally, I had to get back after it. Now, I'd always prospected, but not consistently, like not heavy prospecting. And so I put my sales hat back on and went to work. And I was able to pull myself out of that abyss, if you will, but only because I knew how to do it. And it drives me crazy when I see AEs or even SDRs who are trying to just get through being an SDR so they can become an AE. And then once they become an AE, it's like, oh, that prospecting stuff's not for me. That's for the SDRs. Wrong. I fundamentally don't understand the mentality of an AE who thinks that prospecting isn't part of their job. Why would you ever want to rely on somebody else for your success? I just don't get it. And quite frankly, as a manager or as a VP, if I ever sat in front of an AE and they missed their quota, and the reason they missed their quota, they said, was because they didn't get enough leads from the SDRs or the marketing team. Quite frankly, before that phrase even got out of their mouth, I'd probably kick them out of my office. So it's one of the more critical components of the sales process. But once you get into full cycle sales, there's so much more to think about. And some of that stuff just doesn't excite people, right? Like, meeting prep and execution and coordinating, and a lot of psychology involved and closing. Like, there's a lot to it that we'll talk about in a second. And some people are just not cut out for that, quite frankly. And so they get into it because they think that's what they should be doing, because that's where their career should go. But then they realize, whoa, I am not good at this. And actually a great example is, my friend James Buckley. James Buckley, who used to be on my team with the Sell Better side of the house, that guy, he loves talking to people at the front ends. But he actually made the move to become an AE and was in there and was like, I don't like this. And he actually went back to being effectively an SDR. And so, again, ask yourself that question. Do you really know what it takes? And is this what you want to do versus what you think you need to do? And then does it excite you? Like, if you're not fired up, you're like, yeah, I can't wait for that next challenge versus, oh man, this is going to be a slog. Look, sales is about the transfer of enthusiasm. If you want to write this one down, sales, I believe sales, if you believe in sales and you believe in what you're selling, it's about that transfer of enthusiasm. So if you are not excited about the challenge to improve, run away. And then last but not least, have you considered other options? You don't have to be an AE. You could be customer success. You can go into operation. RevOps right now is huge. Like, are you great with the tools and the tech? Well, then maybe the AE side of the house isn't perfect for you, but operations, sales ops, enablement could be a great angle where you can stay connected to sales, but not have to have the quota. And last but not least, though, this is where I think as an SDR or BDR, right now, things are moving so fast with AI, and the stuff that I saw a couple of weeks back, I'm part of Salesforce, Sales Blazers. I'm, HubSpot was at Inbound. I'm LinkedIn Insider. I saw all the new sales agents that are coming out. And quite frankly, the front end of the funnel, as far as what typical SDRs do, as far as, just cranking out template cadences and those type of things, that is being taken care of by AI, and it's doing it better than we can. Now, phone is still a component of it, but most of the admin type messaging and research and all the stuff that SDRs are typically tasked with doing as part of their job, almost all of that is going to be taken over by AI. There's no question about it. So I think there's going to be some SDRs left who are like the cream of the crop and can leverage all this stuff. But the vast majority of them, if we don't figure out full cycle sales here, we're going to get replaced. And again, we're not going to get replaced by AI. We're going to get replaced by sales reps who learn how to use AI. So it is I don't even think it's my opinion anymore, even though it is, that we are headed back to full cycle sales. So if you are not upskilling yourself, then you might want to look into other other aspects of the profession, like customer service or any of that stuff. Because look, this is the type of stuff that both roles have in common. We both have to prospect. I already said that before. We both got to qualify. And look, there's a difference between qualification and discovery. Qualification is about us. I'm trying to qualify you, BANT, budget authority, need timeline, something like that. I'm trying to qualify you to see if I can sell you something, right? Qualification is usually pretty quick. It's like, all right, you got this. How many of this do you have? That type of thing. Whereas discovery is about the client. And that's really where the difference is, right? Usually the SDR qualifies, and then it hands over to the AE to go deep in discovery and look for problems and impact and everything else. Time management obviously is critical for both roles, right? With AEs, it's exponential because you're now juggling a million different things in addition to prospecting. Objection handling. With the SDRs, you kind of we have to deal with objections without context, right? So it's like a cold call. So we really should know the techniques, right? So we can kind of handle them, because when I say without context, when you're calling into somebody and they say, I'm not interested, it's like, well, not interested in what? Like, I barely said anything. I have no idea about your situation. So in that scenario, I have to use a technique. I have to kind of pause here for a second, say something to keep the conversation going. Whereas AEs, they have to deal with objections differently, but it's usually with context, right? We've done some discovery. We understand what the client's needs are. So we can use different approaches when it comes to that and use what the client has said to us to help address those objections. Negotiations. We both negotiate. And if you're an SDR and you don't think you negotiate, I promise you do. Because we tend to look at things, negotiations as only the deal. It's not true. Negotiation starts from the minute somebody says, send me information. That's a point of negotiation, right? Somebody says, send me information. I go, great. What, when, who? What information would you like to see? When would you like to see it? And who else are you going to send this to? And by the way, get, when you want to schedule a call so we can follow up on that information, see if it makes sense to take the next steps. That's negotiations. And if you don't think negotiation starts from the minute, I guarantee you're losing out on deals. And last but not least, closing. Closing, we close for the next step as an SDR, whereas closing as an AE, we close all the way throughout the entire process. So those are the commonalities. These are the differences. Territory account planning, just active listening and discovery, problem solving. You have to become a problem solver. You can't just sell your stuff. You have to dig for problems and understand and have a bunch of solutions, and might not even be yours, quite frankly, so you can add value to the conversation. Business acumen, managing internal resources, multi-threading, all that stuff is now on your back when it comes to an AE. So how do we address this? One is move like your existing role. If you're asked to do a certain amount of qualification before you hand it over to an AE, go further, go deeper into discovery, right? Get as much information as you can and learn product knowledge so you can actually bring some value to the table, because the days of a no value conversation with a client are over. That's the challenge with the SDR role. If like you call me as a CEO, right? And I pick up and you say something that's kind of interesting to me, and I'm like, all right, let's get in a conversation. If you can't carry that conversation and bring value into that, I'm gone. And if your answer to it is, well, now I need to schedule a call in a week with my SDR, with my AE or my whoever, then you're probably gonna lose me, because there's a million different options out there right now. So if I'm not getting value out of this conversation, I'm going to get out of this conversation really fast. And I'm not going to tolerate a week later having this, because I'm probably not even going to remember what it is next week. Interview AEs, I think obviously go find the AEs and ask them what it takes for your specific company to be in that role and how they made the transition. Ask to sit in on transition calls. Like when you set that meeting up with the AE, if you're not already sitting in on that call, ask to sit in on the call and just listen. Don't say anything, just listen. Be in the background, taking some notes. Like I said, deepen your product knowledge. You got to get to the point where you can answer questions. The whole, hey, let me get back to you on that one, that doesn't fly anymore. I mean, yes, deep technical stuff you don't need to know, but you need to be able to explain the different nuances of your solutions here. And then invest in yourself in training, books, and everything else. And I wanted to put up a couple. I know it was a little bit running over on time before, so we're running up on time here. But here's some books books and resources I would recommend that y'all take a look into. One is Gap Selling. That's Keenan, my friend there. It's very detailed on the gap of discovery, effectively, like of the current state and the future state. Then there's the Transparency Sale. That's on negotiations. That's my buddy Todd Capone, where he talks about how to negotiate in a very transparent, not sleazy way. Then the Challenger Customer. That one is for those of you who are going into kind of mid-market and enterprise selling. That one is absolutely critical. Challenger Sale, not so much. I wouldn't pay too much attention to that one. Challenger Customer, absolutely. Influence, that's more of a psychology book on why we do the things the way that we do them. And this is where I would absolutely think about, because it talks about reciprocity and scarcity and all these different things. And it's directly related to sales. I put up one there, and I can send you this link to this gentleman's AI course. Daniel, who I had on my podcast, he actually started as a mid-market sales rep at Microsoft with 0 sales experience, and he used AI to put himself as the #2 sales rep at Microsoft within 2 years. And he's got a course on how to use AI, because again, the idea here is not to get replaced by AI, but to figure it out. And that, if you are not diving into ChatGPT or Perplexity or any one of those tools right now, it is the biggest cheat code you could possibly imagine. Any question that you would have for me on how to be an AI, or how to be an AE, you can ask that, and it'll tell you the answer. And then my training program, obviously, this is what I try to level up sales reps to give the tools and techniques and strategies and structure they can use to improve. And last but not least, Olivia, what you can do right now is do your job. The number one thing that pisses me off about sales reps who are trying to be AEs is that they're trying to skip through this step to become that. I have reps who are like 27% of quota and expecting a promotion. If you are not crushing your job right now, again, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also it gives you that skill that you'll never lose. So when you become an AE, you don't have to be reliant. Do your job well, and then earn that. Right. Earn that. Don't care about what everybody else is doing. Just do the best you can possibly be at your existing job. And feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'll give you free tips. My Instagram handle is John M. Barrows. I give free consulting there all the time. If you did want to sign up from a program standpoint, go to my website, Training for Individuals, use Reply, you'll get 25% off, and then you can email me at any time. Again, there's a bunch of free stuff on my YouTube channel, but you can also engage any way you want. And last but not least, 10-60-30. This is how I end all my presentations. Somebody asked me, John, if you could go out and tell your, like all those logos, they're all competitors of ours. So if you're going to train us all on the same stuff, how are we going to differentiate? And my answer was 10-60-30. 10% of you in this room are going to take what I tell you and execute at the highest level because that's the type of people you are. 60% of you in this room are going to do something different because it's easy and it makes sense. And 30% of you in this room ain't going to do shit different. So the question isn't how many people can I train? The question is what percentage do you want to be in? And that's your choice, not mine. So I do not believe we have a choice anymore, quite frankly, to be in that bottom 30 or even the bottom 50% of that 60. We got to evolve right now because if not, we're going to get replaced by those reps who do. Thank you for your time. Sorry to speed through it. Happy to answer any questions after the fact. If people have questions, email me, hit me up on Instagram, and I'm here to help. Thank you very much, Olivia, for letting me go over another couple minutes here.
Sure. Thank you so much, John. That was really fantastic presentation and insights. Thank you so much for them. May I ask you to stay for a couple of more minutes in our chats in YouTube? And like there are some questions, and I think my team will drop other questions right in the chat. Like in order to communicate with the audience. I mean, people are so happy to see you at our event. Thank you so much.
Yeah, go Celtics, by the way. There's a couple in there. Yeah, so I will join. Do you want me to stay on here with the chat, or is there a separate chat on YouTube?
That's the chat on YouTube, so you will be like out of stage, and from there you can chat in the YouTube. Thank
you. If anyone wants to hit me up on that, I'll be on chat for the next 5-10 minutes here, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
For everyone who is watching us online, I want to remind that ask your questions, be very active in the chat, because we will be giving away 3 reply plans. Email only, professional, and AI SDR. So you can actually win a free subscription. And we'll be also sharing the presentations of our speakers after the event. And finally, up next, we have Kyle Van Voorhis, CEO at Voorhis, who will be presenting on how to use sales metrics to improve cold outreach. Kyle, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to jump in here. I'm going to share my screen, and we're really going to be talking about data, metrics, and how we can use that to improve our cold outreach. A lot of times I find that people will do a bunch of outreach. It will either work or not work. And if it doesn't work, they're just frustrated. They try a whole bunch of different things. They have no idea why. And what I want to show you here today is how can you use data to figure out what's working so you can double down on it, and figure out what's not working so you can stop doing it. And data is really going to give you the direction you need to be able to help your team get better over time. Or if you're a rep, help you get better over time. So let me share my screen here. All righty. And let's dive right into this. So quick background on me for those of you who may never have seen me before. And actually, I'd love to see in the comments if you are familiar with some of my content, or if this is the first time you've ever been introduced to me. Just to give you a quick background for those of you who have never heard of me before, I've worked with over 80 software and service companies, helping them build a repeatable sales process. One of the things you should know about me is that I take a very data-driven approach when it comes to running sales organizations. I want to understand the metrics and let that guide my decision-making. And I've done this for a very long time with a lot of different companies. I've written 3 Amazon best-selling books. One is on cold outreach. That's called Cold to Committed. The other is on leading sales teams. That's called the Sales Development Framework. And then the third one is on building a repeatable sales process. And I've also helped our clients sell over 100 million in software and services across my venture-backed companies that I've worked with, over 280 million in money raised. And I've trained over 1,000 salespeople. So I've been around the block. I've been in board meetings as a executive sales leader while things were not going great. I've also been in board meetings in the same scenario where things are going very great. So I know the difference between high performance, low performance. I've been a rep. I've been an SDR, AE. I've run sales teams. I run SDR teams. So I have a lot of different perspective when it comes to running these organizations. And there's 3 problems that I see come up quite a bit. And I want to go through each one of these. I call them the 3 poisons of sales teams. The first poison is that the reps don't know what they have to do to be successful. So what I'd like to see in the chat here, if you're a sales rep, do you know, yes or no, do you know on a daily basis what you have to do to hit 100% of your quota? John Barrows had a really good slide in his last deck where he said, do the work. And he talked about how he'll talk to a sales rep or an SDR who's at 26% of their quota and they're expecting to be promoted. You got to do the work. So I'm curious to see in the chat, how many of you know what you have to do to be successful? So it looks like some people say no. I don't see any yeses yet. So let me know in the chat if that's the case for you. Do you know on a daily basis what you have to do to be successful? The second one here is the leadership team doesn't know how to use the data, the metrics from the sales team to enable them to be successful. And then the third one is there's a culture where poor performance is tolerated. A culture where poor performance is tolerated. If the leadership team doesn't know what the team has to do to be successful, the team doesn't know what they have to do individually to hit their number, then no one can actually achieve their number because no one knows how to do it, right? So what happens is you create this culture where poor performance is tolerated. The leaders don't know what to do because they feel weird firing a sales rep that's not performing when they don't know if it's the sales rep fault, is it their fault because they're not enabling them with the right materials, maybe the product isn't in the right market, maybe we don't have enough leads, maybe our leads are terrible. There's all of these questions. So the team just doesn't perform well and you kind of float around not being all that successful, right? So those are the three poisons I see constantly within sales teams. Now there's a big opportunity here, and data is really how you figure this out. The big opportunity is to create what I call an anti-fragile sales team. See, a lot of sales teams are fragile. The top performing sales rep leaves, and all of a sudden the company isn't hitting their numbers. You have another sales rep who's very helpful for you as a rep, helping you learn, they leave, all of a sudden you're struggling. It can be very difficult when lead sources change, when people leave an organization, then the sales team collapses. And an anti-fragile sales team, when it encounters these kind of challenges, they actually improve. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to use sales data to improve your sales team performance. That's my main promise to you. I want you to walk away here with a clear framework on how to start using sales data to improve your team's performance. And we're going to talk about it from the lens of email outreach, but the same principles apply no matter what type of outreach you're doing, whether it's inbound, whether it's outbound. All right, 3 core principles here that I want to go through. And then I'm going to give you some spreadsheets and some other materials that you can use. The first is you need to have a clear picture of your ideal state. You need to know what has to be true in order to hit the numbers that you need to hit. So if you're a sales rep and you know, hey, I need to do $1 million a year, you need to figure out what does good look like? How many activities are you doing? What's the conversion rate of those activities? How many sales demos are you doing? How many of those end up closing? You need to know your number so you can look at what perfect looks like. So then you can work to make everything that you do today match what perfect looks like. You also need to measure what matters. If you're doing all of the activities on a daily basis that you need to hit your number and you're not hitting your number, it's because the activities aren't as effective as you have expected them to be. So you need to measure those activities so you can figure out where your bottlenecks are. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And then finally, you need to iterate on what you're doing with data. It's not about just doing a whole bunch of volume, crossing your fingers and hoping that it works out, because it often doesn't. I'm sure a lot of you have been in situations where your managers have been pushing you to do more and more and more and more and more activity. And you do it and you're not seeing the more and more and more and more results. It's because we're not iterating with data. We're blind and we're just trying to do more activities as one lever to pull. It's lazy. In reality, we need to iterate with the data and get our process working for us. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to create your ideal state. How I do this is I use a growth model. You can use this if you are an SDR, an AE. You can use this if you run a sales organization. So let me pull my laptop up here and let's dive into it. So I have it right here. So I call this the sales team calculator. If you want a copy of this, I'm happy to share it. If you, my name is Kyle Van Voris on Instagram. If you DM me sales team calculator, I will dig this up and send it to you afterwards. But I want to walk you through how to use this, this tool. I have a blank version here, but let's go to the example and walk through. And this is from a real company that I spoke to a couple of years ago now, who had just raised money. So this is a venture-backed company. That's important. About 30% of the companies I've worked with are venture-backed. So if you're venture-backed, this might feel very familiar to you, but if you're not, this won't be. But again, if you're a rep, you need to be thinking like this too, especially if you want to get into leadership, but for your own efforts. Okay, so we have a revenue target. This would be the quota for the team. So let's say we want a team doing 2 million in revenue. We have an 18% close rate. That's from first meeting to close. That might be a discovery call. That might be a demo to close. We have an ACV, annual contract value, of 15,000. We have a show rate of 80%, a qualified rate of 80%. So a show rate is they book a meeting. What percentage of the time do they actually show up to the meeting? Qualified rate of the people who showed up, what percentage of them qualify? So if you sell to maybe small businesses and it's a very transactional sale, you might get your qualified rate might be 100%. It's like, yeah, we're on a cold call when we book the meeting, we know they're qualified. But it could be much lower. Maybe you sell more to the enterprise, mid-market stuff. But okay, so show rate, qualified rate, and then SDR pay, and then AE pay you put in here. And this would be on target earning, by the way. Okay, so let's look. This is the plan that they gave me. They were like, hey, this is how we think we're going to hit this number. So you see SDRs on the team. They wanted to hire one SDR, AE on the team, one AE. And then in month 4, they're going to hire another SDR, another AE. And then month 6, hire another SDR, another AE. So that means they would have 3 SDRs, 3 AEs going to the second half of the year. All right, great. Generally, from an SDR, I'm expecting 100 activities per SDR per day. That's my benchmark. There's a lot of companies that do way more than that. There are companies that do less than that. I always start at around 100 and you dial it down or dial it up depending on the organization. But 100 is like 100 is not that many activities to do in a day. And then AE target activities, they were expecting about 800 activities a month from their AEs. And activity to demo rate is 0.3%, 0.5%, 0.6, up to 1%. So once you get to 1%, you do 100 activities. You send 100 emails. You do 100 cold calls. You book 1 meeting. That's the number that you're trying to get to. Now, that's a higher level number than your dial to connect rate or your email sent to reply rate and then the reply to meeting booked rate, right? So you need to measure those things, but we'll talk about that later. Here, I want that higher level metric. Because what this is going to do is model out how many demos get booked, how many demos show, how many are qualified, right? And it does this on a monthly basis, and then it does revenue. So right here at the end, this is the total revenue this team generates based on the plan they put together. It's 1.2 million, almost 1.3. Remember, their revenue goal was 2 million. 1.2 million is not 2 million. Go figure, right? I don't have to be a wizard to figure that one out. So they're not hitting the target that they said they were going to hit. This is what they told the board. Hey, we're going to do 2 million. We're going to hire this big old sales team. It's going to be awesome. Well, not going to be awesome because your plan doesn't even work on paper. And here's something to really remember, and this is for everybody. Just because something works on paper doesn't mean it's going to work in real life. But because something works, because something doesn't work on paper means that you're not going to be able to make it in real life. If it never works on paper, it's not going to work in real life. But just because it works on paper doesn't mean it's going to work in real life. Kind of backwards on that one, but you get the point here. We want to make sure it at least works on paper. Okay, doesn't work on paper. So we had to rebuild it. Now, here's what I want to show you. I want you to notice what changes here. None of these assumptions change, right? So I'm going to switch between example 1 and example 2 here. None of the assumptions change. And also, none of these activities or activity to demo rate changes. Look at that. Stays exactly the same. What did I change? So this was the modifications I made. 2 SDRs, 2 AEs instead of 1 and 1. Then month 3, hiring earlier. Another 2 SDRs, kept it at 2 AEs. And then month 6, 5 SDRs, 3 AEs. So we hire one more SDR and one more AE at this point. We're not taking into account turnover. We kept all other variables exactly the same. And would you look at that? We hit the 2 million. So we kept all of their assumptions. We didn't make any we didn't say, hey, we're going to double the ACV, which is something you could totally do. You could definitely drive up ACV. We didn't do anything crazy here. We just changed the hiring plan. And then guess what? We hit the revenue target. Now you're probably thinking, Kyle, I'm not an idiot. Of course you hit the revenue target. You hired way more people and you hired them a lot earlier. Yes, I did. You're very astute. But I want to show you something pretty interesting here. Let's go to example 1. And down here we have cost of sales. Okay. And we do a cumulative and we have just a straight cost of sales. I'm going to look at month 12 cost of sales. It's like the full team totally built out, operating, hitting their number. 40%. So 40% of the revenue this team is generating is going to pay the SDRs and the AEs. That might be good for you. That might be terrible for you. Totally depends. Now let's look at number 2 here. Example 2. Remember, we hired more people and earlier. We were much more aggressive with our hiring. 33%. Our cost of sale decreased. How does that happen? How do you hire more people more aggressively and your cost of sales decrease? Comment. Let me see if you can figure out the answer. How do you hire more people? You hire them earlier, yet your cost of sale decreases. Now, while you're typing in your answer, I'm going to point this out. I didn't make up this $2 million revenue goal. That's a big revenue goal. And some of you reps have probably worked at companies, or maybe you're currently working at companies where it feels like the leadership team just like spits out huge revenue targets. We sometimes forget like you actually have to hit the target. It's an important part. Like we need to be reasonable about our targets. So they set the $2 million revenue target. They just didn't really think through exactly what they had to do to hit it. Required hiring more people to hit that revenue target. You're going to set a big revenue target. You need to be prepared to build the team to hit that revenue target. So let me look at the comments here. If anybody has some ideas on how cost of sales decrease. I don't see anything here yet. Maybe I stumped you. That's totally okay. Let me share with you. The reason why is this: SDR pay, AE pay. I changed the ratio of SDRs to AE. You see at our peak, before it was 3 SDRs, 3 AEs. Now it's 5 SDRs, 3 AEs. You're booking more meetings at lower cost. So it drives down your cost of sale. That's why they split the SDR team and AE team in the first place. Usually be salespeople doing full cycle, booking their own meetings, closing their own deals. They split the team. Why? Because you get efficiency from that and it drives down your cost of sale. Okay, so that's the sales team calculator. Again, if you want that, just DM me on Instagram and I'll send it to you after this. The next one here, and we can go, let's go back to the deck just so we can stay on track here. The next one here is really measure and iterate with sales metrics. Okay, you want to look at the sales metrics and you're going to measure and iterate your process using data. Okay, and that's what I'm going to show you here. This is another tool I have called the Sales Metrics Analyzer. And I'll send you both. If you DM and follow me on Instagram, and you DM me the sales team one, I'll send you this one too, just so you have it. I'll send both so you don't have to message me again. But this is what it looks like. And here's how I want you reviewing your sales metrics. This here is how you improve your cold outreach. Okay, remember, we built the ideal sale. We know what good looks like. We need to hit these certain metrics. So this is how we're measuring to make sure that we are matching what we put in the model. All right, so we start off with activities. So how many activities that that the team is doing? A couple of notes here that I want to give you before I actually dive in here. You generally want to do a cohort analysis. And if you don't know what that means, a cohort analysis is when you're looking at past data that has fully matured and gone through whatever the journey it is to go through. It's a cohort. So the 5,000 activities, we're only looking at those activities and the leads of those activities and seeing what they had generated. So if you do, let me actually grab an example of this real quick. This is the blank one, and I want to show you one with data. Sales Metrics Analyzer. Okay. So I'm going to show you this one here, which has the data in it. I think you're going to appreciate that. Whoops. Okay, so here's the one with the data. You can see 5,500 activities were done in this period, which led to 550 engagements. So 5,500 activities, that's a cold call, that's an email being sent. 550 engagements, this is somebody who answered the phone, somebody who replied to an email. That's what an engagement is. So if you're just doing email, we sent 5,500 emails, 550 people replied to that email. That would be very high. That's a 10% of the activities lead to some kind of engagement. So this example here, we're looking at cold calls, but the same thing applies to email. Then from the engagements, people who reply to an email, people who answer the phone, how many appointments do you book? So in this case, we booked 17 appointments. 3.1% of engagements result in an appointment. 76.5% of appointments make it to deal stage 1. 46.2% of deal stage 1 deals make it to deal stage 2. 66.7% of deal stage 2 deals make it to deal stage 3, and 75% of deal stage 3 deals make it to close 1 in this cohort. So this 5,500 activities resulted in 3 closed 1 deals. That might be good, that might be bad. It depends on your situation, your company. But here's what I want to point out to you. When you're tracking this information and you're looking at it and you're going, okay, where do I make the improvements? The higher up you go, the more impact it typically has. Of course, the possible percentage increase can have a big impact. So if you can triple the appointment to deal stage 1 percentage, but you can only increase this by 1%, it might not work out to be better. But generally, the higher up you go, the more impactful it is. So when I look at this, as somebody who looks at sales metrics a lot, and you might be looking at this as well, thinking the same thing, activities to engagement, 10%, that's not bad. Only 3.1% of engagements actually result in appointments being booked. We could probably improve this number. And guess what? If we improve this number, it has a dramatic impact on the entire pipeline. Dramatic impact on the entire pipeline. So this is probably where I'm looking at first. I'm going to come up with changes to our scripts. Maybe our emails aren't getting people to reply with, I'm interested. Let's tweak the email copy. Maybe our reply rate isn't bad, but none of those replies book meetings. So the messaging isn't resonating. So let's change the messaging. That's how you're thinking about it to drive up this engagement to appointment rate. Then the next one here that stands out to me is deal stage 1 to deal stage 2 drop off. Only 46%. That means 53.8% of deals don't make it to deal stage 2. Maybe the sales reps aren't booking the next meeting on the meeting. Maybe our demo just isn't resonating enough with people. Maybe we're not doing good discovery calls. This is how you start using data. When you have the visibility, it kind of sticks out, pretty boldly. Hey, 3.1% is low. Let's fix that number. You create a hypothesis to fix this, and then you actually fix it. That's it. Whether this is your own numbers and you're a rep or you're running a team, it's the exact same thing. Let the data drive your decision making. Because if you're not, you're just hoping whatever change you make actually works. I mean, I'm curious, how many of you have worked at a company where they just change the cold call script or the demo script over and over and over again? Or they give you a whole bunch of new email templates to try to use every single month. They have no idea what they're doing. They just know we're not getting the results we're looking for. So we're going to just give the team a whole bunch of different things to try and see what works. But if they're not measuring it, they don't know what part of it to fix. Are your email open rates low? Well, maybe we need to change the first sentence, or maybe the subject lines are broken, right? Like you need to change something with an expected change in the metric. And if you're just changing things blindly, then of course you're going to run into some challenges. All right, so let me go back to our deck here and we'll close the loop on this. Why does this all work? So the first thing is when you track things properly, you understand where the bottlenecks are. You also have a clear idea of what your team's performance is at each stage. Maybe your reply rate's really low, but the people who reply all book a meeting. So you know something resonates there. Your call to action is right, or something's resonating with them. You're going to tweak something different than if you don't track it and you're just making changes because you're trying to increase the amount of meetings that you're booking. So you need a clear idea of where the team is struggling, where they're not struggling, so you can make changes to where they're actually struggling and don't accidentally change something that's working. And you'll get a specific area to try and optimize. That's key. Now, for the materials I walked through today, go ahead and message me on Instagram. But I have something else for you that I put together for this. It's called the sales effectiveness bundle. A couple of things that I'm giving you here, I'm going to run through real quick. The first is what's called the Sales Team Moneyball bundle. It's a whole bunch of frameworks and templates and spreadsheets that you can use to be much more data driven with running your sales team. It's much more geared towards managers and above who have sales teams and they want to be very data driven with how they run the sales team. The second here is a sales metrics training. This is a private training that I did for a high level mastermind of SaaS founders on how to really understand sales metrics. Then there's 2 courses I'm giving you. Each one of these is like 42 or 45 lessons. One is called AE Fundamentals on how to be an effective AE, covers everything from how to close deals, how to run demos, how to overcome objections, and then also SDR fundamentals. Again, another 42 lesson course talking about cold calling, cold email, and everything. All you have to do is go to gtm.voris.com/sales effectiveness bundle. I'll throw that in the chat in a minute. We have 3 minutes here. So what I'd like to do is open up. If there's a question, if you commented, I will go ahead and reply to it. But let me stop sharing here. And let me grab that link for you. All right. Any questions that we have? Oh, it looks like you already got the link in there. Great. Okay, cool. Let me see. More production capabilities of the SDR team. I'm not sure if that's an actual question. So maybe we don't have any questions yet. Is the sales team available? Yeah, the sales team calculator is available as a template. If you message me, I'll send it to you. I just don't have it up right now. Cool. I don't see any questions, Olivia.
Well, so Kyle, speaking about the slides, did I get right that you will be sharing them as well, right? So we can send them to everyone. Sure. Okay.
Do you want me to just throw the link
great.
in the chat here to the deck?
Yep, just the deck. And regarding the calculator, that's definitely a tool that just looks like an amazing tool to actually build this pipeline and to calculate the outcomes out of the sales pipeline. So yeah, actually everyone will be, I think a lot of people will be DMing you regarding the calculator.
Yeah, I'll grab that for everybody, and I'll send them both the calculator and the analyzer as well. I'll send that to you.
My team is telling me that there are questions. Okay, so how would you do this process to be different for government contracting sales? The sales process is very different.
Yeah, the sales
That's a great
process is
question.
different, but you're still looking at the drop off per stage. So 2 things here. One is if you're talking about lead gen, it's going to be pretty similar. Like the motion might be different, but you're tracking the same type of stuff. How many activities are we doing? How many people are we talking to or are replying to our emails? How many meetings are getting booked? Very similar. Now the sales process looks very different. There's a lot more steps. It takes a lot longer. You're still looking at drop off between stages. Now, if we're talking strictly sales process, you're also going to look at close lost reason, close won reason. Why are we losing deals? Are we not pulling in the people in the correct departments in earlier, right? Is there not really a sponsor within the organization that's driving the initiative? So you need to really dissect why you're losing. Here's another question here. Small team using a CRM doing basics. We update our approach every March and make bets on how we can improve. Should we iterate faster? Yeah, once a year is slow. We need to be iterating every single month. And if for some reason that's too fast, then maybe every quarter, but yeah, a lot faster. What I would recommend doing is the leadership team should be looking at the data from the team every single week and then monthly saying, hey, what did we see this month? And does it warrant any changes? You might not change anything, but if you're seeing your team is struggling with your dial to connect rates, let's say it's cold calling, how long are you going to accept that? A whole year? No, we can't. We need to start focusing on our operations, maybe improve the lead quality, maybe make sure that the SDRs are calling their follow-up list when they should be, these types of things. So yeah, you got to iterate a lot quicker than that.
I have one more question. When you show this to SDR teams, I mean, the calculator, when you train the SDR teams, what's their first impression?
Yeah, well, it's a lot is what really the first impression. The calculator I usually use on a manager executive level because it kind of helps give a good perspective of the overall team. For an individual rep, what you're really trying to drill down to are how many activities do I have to do on a daily basis? Like we're talking about cold outreach here, so mostly booking meetings, right? You need to know how many activities you have to do on a daily basis to mathematically hit your number. That's it. Because if you know that, then you know, hey, if I just do 100 calls a day, if I make sure I send 40 personalized emails and make 80 calls in one day, I know I'll hit my number. So it gives you that clarity. Now, that might be a lot of work. It might be hard to do. So you need to hustle. That's okay. You know the number though. And maybe one day you miss it. You're like, hey, I was 10 short today. The next day you can make up for it. It's that visibility that's really important.
Well, after all, that's a prediction, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you're building out on paper what you want the reality to look like, but it doesn't mean the reality is going to happen. So you need to work and do the work to make it happen. And then what's going to happen? You're going to do the activities and you might not get the result. And then the question is why? Is it because our email to reply rate is low? Is it our reply to meeting being set is low? Is it a cold call issue? Dial to connect rate, meeting getting booked, conversation to meeting booked rate. The data will tell you what metric we're struggling in, and you make the tweak based on that metric. And then we have one more question here. Other than your book, what are the best books you recommend for beginning SDR and beginning AE? So Fanatical Prospecting is a good one on the SDR side as well. The beginning AE, I'm a big fan of Challenger Sale. That's a good one. And Gap Selling, I like quite a bit. So those are the two I'd recommend there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Awesome.
Thank you for the presentation. That was super insightful.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, everybody. Talk soon.
Okay. And now I'm particularly excited about our next presentation because it's coming from my colleague, Vlad Alexienko, VP of Growth at Reply. Vlad will be sharing insights on how to write better sequences backed by data from over 50 million emails. Over to you, Vlad.
Thank you, Olivia. Thanks. All this time I was behind the scenes, listening to the presentation, great insights, particularly I love Kyle's note on execution. Actually today I read an interesting post on X saying when it comes to everything, it's Pareto principle, 80-20. So 20% spend on planning and then 80% on execution. So basically, when it comes to those calculators, it's super important to then execute on it, right? Loved this post actually. Okay, so let's start sharing the screen, and today we'll be talking about an interesting topic for me. It's how to write better sequences backed by analyzing 50+ million emails, cold emails sent through Reply platform in the past 6 or so months. So again, my name is Vlad, and I'm growth person here at Reply with SDR's background. Spent almost 9 years doing outbound sales, cold outreach. Not an expert, just following some best practices, trying to implement them, see if it works for me. If so, then I just start sharing those insights and those practical things. So here's what we will cover today. I will share just some data-backed insights of cold outreach, sequencing in Reply, plus some best practices, plus example of these best practices, plus as always, useful bonus content. Actually, 4 pieces of useful bonus content. That's always you have to have something really useful and practical when it comes to presentation workshop like this. And I love that our speakers also follow this approach. So let's get started. So we analyzed lots of cold emails, a bunch of data points, and I just decided to put some of them into this presentation, just the most interesting ones and the most exciting ones, in my opinion. And those are just typically some high-level things that you can fix, and they can help you improve your cold outreach in a nutshell. So number one, it's email length. So when we analyze cold emails, typically when it comes to reply, typically it's B2B sales cold emails. Maybe 80% of our use cases are B2B sales emails, sometimes inbound, sometimes other use cases like recruiting, we see business development, marketing, etc. But typically it's outbound sales. So when it comes to outbound sales, cold emails, what we'll notice here is that the shorter your email in terms of words count is like the better actually. So the shorter your email is, the more replies you get. On average, we can say that emails with less than 75 words on an average typically generate almost 2x more replies in comparison to longer emails with more than 100 words. And then you can see a reverse trend. Why? Because typically those longer emails, as I said, could be like a marketing use case or VC use case or maybe business development use case or partnership. So with those longer emails and non-sales use cases, you want to share all information upfront, like your company updates, maybe your numbers, your pitch deck, and so on. So maybe with other use cases, longer emails are better. But when it comes to B2B sales and cold outreach, the shorter the email is, the better. So my recommendation here is to maybe stick to something between 50 to 100 words max, and then just iterate here. And it does make perfect sense. Why? Because when the research data that says, hey, average time people spend reading brand email marketing emails is approximately like 11, maybe to 15 seconds. So in these 15 seconds, you have to specify why you're reaching out to them, what's your value proposition, what's in it for them, your call to action, and then encourage them to reply. So you have just 15 seconds to encourage them. And when it comes to average reading speed, you can read on medium level speed, you can read something between 50 maybe to 100 words. So again, it does correlate with this data. And there is an interesting tool for everyone called the readtime.com. So what you can do here, you can just copy and paste your cold email and then adjust reading speed and then silent reading speed, because typically they read emails in silent mode rather than allowed speed reading, right? So, and then you can check, hey, how long does it take to read emails and words count? And then you can say, hey, okay, it will take 20 seconds to read those 80 words. So again, another way to adjust and maybe improve your email copies for your sequences. The same with average sentence lengths. So when it comes to average sentence lengths, we also analyze those data points. And what we will notice an interesting insight here. So again, the shorter the sentence is, the better. So it does make sense to send simple emails with simple sentences, avoiding complex phrases and so on, robust ideas and so on. You just keep your emails short in terms of length, and the same with average sentences. So we will notice here that on average, emails where average sentence length is something between maybe 6 to 12 words on average, generate more replies. And then you can see on average those emails get approximately almost 3% reply rate in comparison to longer ones, which is less than 2%. So a huge difference. Typically, I would say it's almost 20 to 30% difference. So that's how you can improve your copywriting and email copies as well. So idea number 2 here is just adjust your average sentence length. Avoid longer sentences, avoid complex phrases, and so on. The next interesting insight here, I have been sharing this before, but what I've noticed is that sometimes people send like really long emails and then lots of paragraphs, or I call them grades, pretty much the same. So paragraph is like a white space between those sentences. So we have 4 grades: greeting, reason for outreach, my value proposition, and call to action. So, and when it comes to grades, we also analyzed those emails by paragraphs or grades. And what we noticed, again, the fewer grades you have, paragraphs you have, the better the result is actually. So what we've noticed, the best ones, the top performing emails, they contain just maybe 3 grades, then something between 4, 5, 6, 7, and then your average reply rate starts declining. And again, in terms of open rates, we can say, hey, probably those emails are super long ones. In that case, you have more options. That's why you can just like increase your spam rate, because you have more sentences. Maybe there are some spam words and so on. So that's why longer emails perform, actually cold emails, sales cold emails perform a little bit worse. All right, so then it comes to grades. And I actually read a few examples of those really awesome recent posts from other creators like Aaron Reeves and Will Alred recently about grades and short sentences. And you can see here they pretty much follow those best practices in terms of grades and short sentences. Short sentences, bunch of space between those paragraphs, white spaces between those paragraphs, easy to read, easy like to scan those posts, these emails, right? So probably that's why these email frameworks, cold email frameworks work, and that's why these creators and experts share those templates, because they work, right? And again, it does make sense because it correlates with our insights as well. Strategy number 4 here is questions. What I also noticed is that sometimes salespeople send me cold emails with asking me a few things. Hey, click a link, where's the chat? Maybe you wanna like jump on a call, or so basically they have sometimes 2-3 calls to action. And when it comes to best practices, what we noticed that it's better to ask either 0 questions or maybe just 1 soft interest-based questions. Then again, the more question you ask, the fewer replies you get. And then when it comes to reply rates, you can see then that for all emails we analyzed, an average reply rate for all emails with just 1 question is almost 2.2%, when emails that contain just, for example, 4 questions, it's like 0.7%. So it's almost 3x less effective when in comparison to 1 or 0 question. So my suggestion here is to focus on soft interest-based CTA, something like where's the chat, where's conversation. Is this something that you're interested in? Does it resonate with you? Does it resonate with what your team is like going to implement this quarter, this year, and so on? So maybe 1 question or 0 question is a better choice when it comes to sales outbound outreach. Then a bunch of other ideas here. Emails per inbox. We also analyze those metrics because of new deliverability updates with Google and Yahoo. And what we can say here that the best performing inboxes, they just send something between 20 to 100 emails per inbox per day. Then the more emails you send through your inbox, the fewer both opens and replies you get. So sticks to something between 50 to 100 emails per inbox per day. Then the same with your sequence. What we've also noticed here that all playbooks out there. They say, hey, just send more emails, like maybe have 15 to 20 touches in your campaign, like email campaign, to get those replies through your follow-ups. But what our data says that every additional step of your sequence will generate less replies, actually. So my recommendation here, focus on shorter, maybe 3 to 5 step email sequences, and then incorporate other channels. Because again, you will get majority of your replies on steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then probably you will just trigger your prospects to click, hey, report spam, block you as a spammer, and so on. And that's how you can hurt your deliverability nowadays. And then let's talk about like LinkedIn. We had a quite interesting conversation with one of our partners, Sally. It's a LinkedIn tool. And what they noted that when it comes to LinkedIn outreach and LinkedIn connection requests, they noted that they analyze LinkedIn acceptance rate. It's like a percentage of accepted connections you send. And what they note is that with Note, with like non-personalized Note, your average acceptance rate is almost 15%. Without Note, meaning blank connection request, you will get 21% acceptance rates. And with personalized notes, based on their persona, maybe their recent posts, updates, about profile sections on, you can get up to 35% acceptance rate. So my suggestion here is to focus on sending personalized connection request, and don't pitch your product in connection request itself, and use just LinkedIn messages for pitching your product. And here are a few ideas for connection requests, personalized connection requests. And then another tool, Ample Markets, a self-engagement platform, they analyzed LinkedIn messages and types of those all LinkedIn messages. And what they noted is that voice and video messages are almost 2.5x more likely to get interested responses than text or just connection request itself. So we had this conversation on our panel discussion, and again, it correlates with what Catherine said. Use LinkedIn voice notes as a channel for your cold reach to boost your reply rates on LinkedIn. So a few ideas how it works: just voice note, then maybe personalized image, some humor here, and so on. And again, when it comes to bonus content, 4 pieces of useful bonus content. Number 1, we had a list of 10 multi-channel sequences, including templates, ready-to-use templates, in one link. Then I have some cool email templates to get more replies. They're quite boring ones, but so Michael, in our next presentation, maybe we'll share like really some great examples of email templates with you. But here's what we have here at Reply, and it works for us. All channel best practices like emails, LinkedIn's, how to create your sequences, how to like strategically balance between emails, LinkedIn touches, maybe some other channels like cold calling, and so on. Also, we had a really cool multi-channel course that will help you like combine everything together, like connect all those dots together. And as always, let's stay in touch. Let's connect here on LinkedIn. Feel free to scan QR code or maybe click the link, and I will share the presentation with you, the slides with you in the chat. So let's stay in touch. And as always, thank you for your time, and hope you will enjoy the rest of our event. So thanks for your time again. All right, and so super happy and super excited to have Michael Lieben from ColdIQ with us today. So Michael, putting Mike back to you. So super, I will listen to your presentation on the background. So
thanks a lot, Vlad. Am I speaking? Am I public now?
Yes, you are
Can
in.
you hear me well? Because I had some mic issues, so just
Yeah,
want to
all
make
good,
sure.
all good. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So it's funny that you were talking about cold email sequences. I guess some of the things you've said, I'm gonna repeat. So I was actively listening to the presentation, and I was thinking, I hope it doesn't say something that's gonna be the complete opposite of what I will say. Otherwise, we would have some debate. But for the most part, it feels like we think the same when it comes to cold email copywriting. So I'm gonna present my screen and I'm gonna start my presentation. Let me just see how to do this. Here we go. Are you able to see my screen? Just looking at the comments. Okay. Seems that the screen is showing. Perfect. So the theme of the presentation today, writing less boring cold emails. And I hope I'm gonna help you do this. You know, the first question I asked myself when I saw the team. Oh, sorry. First, I'm going to introduce myself because why should you even listen to me? I'm Michel Lieben. I'm the CEO of Call Like You. So we are a lead gen agency. We serve over 50 clients, and to do that, we use the best prospecting tools on the market. We send over 1 million emails per month. So we have tried and tested a lot of different templates, and this is what I'm going to be talking about today. So yes, the first question is what makes a cold email boring? And I guess this is the best way to make our cold emails not boring. And to answer the question, I guess the best way is to just look at your mailboxes. If it looks anything like mine, you must be receiving a lot of cold emails that look something like the ones I get. So, for example, in this case, I'm getting this email from Alexi Kelly that I don't know, and I didn't want to put her on the spot. So sorry for not blurring your name if you're listening, Alexis Kelly. But here, when you look at the intro of the email, she's saying, "Hello, Michel. In discussion with industry leaders like yourself, it's evident that blah, 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 blah." And so in this case, as I read the first line, the personalization is industry leaders like yourself. So to me, it's pretty evident that they just added me to a list with another 10,000 people who have something like director, manager in their job title. And they're hoping that this does the trick, right? So yeah, impersonal, irrelevant. That's one way to bore me when it comes to reading cold emails. Another thing is those unnecessary long cold emails. So you see, it's like imagine your recipient reading your emails. They probably have another 40 cold emails that they didn't want to have in their mailbox, and now you kill them with this huge block of text. I think Vlad was saying that the shorter the email is, the more it tends to get replies. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Even if that was interesting, there is so much text, and I don't have the time to read this all, so I'm not even reading any of that. So yeah, so from these two examples, it makes it pretty clear. If you don't want your emails to be boring to your recipients, if you want them to draw their attention, you need to make them feel like they've been written for the person reading it and only for them. So you want them to be reading and you want them to be thinking there is no way this email was for anyone else than me. And as a bonus point, you want to get your point across in as few lines as possible. People actually browse. There is a statistic that says that people look at this for something like 2 seconds, and this is how they decide if they're going to read more or if they're gonna close the email. So, anyways, enough talking. I'm gonna show a framework we use when it comes to writing this cold email, and I will illustrate that with a practical example. So, once again, now when I'm saying, you need to send emails that are only for your recipients, you might be thinking, let me find some bit of irrelevant information about some hobby they have or when they went to school so that I can show I've done my homework. And I'll say, a lot of people hate that, but I think it's actually better than nothing. That said, if you're going to look for something to say, you want to find something that's related to the challenge they have in their job, in their daily jobs, or inside of the company, and then you want to tie these challenges to your value proposition. So, for examples, here what you can look at is, change in the industry likely to impact businesses. You want to look at hiring trends, are they growing the team? Are they reducing the team? You want to look at probably opening of new offices or location. You want to look at, did a new C-level join a company? Did they launch a new product? Are they spending more money on ads? Did they get acquired? Did they merge with another company? Did they raise funds? All of these things can have some implications, whether positive or negative, and from them you can draw a conclusion. So we're going to show an example for a client we had where we generated something over 200 meetings for them. And just imagine that, like, let's say you are selling something like HR software, so human resource software, and let's say that the problem you solve is that you help companies that have high employee churn, you help them reduce that. So what I'm saying is, if all the employees in the company are leaving after a short time, that's the problem they have, and that's what you are solving, right? And so businesses would obviously pay for such kind of software because hiring and training new people is very costly. So if they have to do it over and over and over, because every time they hire someone, the person leaves, and they're gonna be probably wasting hundreds of thousands. And if they can pay a subscription to your tool, that means that employees stay, say, 6 more months, then you actually have a pretty clear business case in terms of return on investment. So you've got this software, you are solving a problem, and now you want to write your email. Before even writing your email, you want to think, who should I go after? Who is struggling the most with this problem that I solve? Because this is how you're going to make them feel like you are talking to them and them only. And so there are a few ways to know, but like there are no ways to know for sure in advance. So you need to build some hypotheses. If you have some existing clients, it's more evident because you can just look at all your existing client base and you can think what made them want to reach out to you, what made them want to buy. And then if you look hard enough, you will probably see some patterns, and these patterns can guide your hypothesis as to, okay, this is what I need to be looking for inside of a company to just figure that they might be needing my product. Now that said, let's say you have no data. What you want to do is you want to build some hypotheses. So in our case, once again, I'm taking the example of a company where employees are leaving after, say, 6 months. And so what I want to do is, because it's companies that have trouble retaining employees that I want to help, I want to try to find some public signs that they are encountering some of these issues. And so this is brainstorming. You can look at lots of data sources, but for example, for us, we thought of a few ideas. And so the first idea we had was, let's say a company has bad employee reviews on Glassdoor. If they are getting too many bad reviews, it's very likely that they are experiencing above average churn, which might make it more likely that they would be in the market for a software that helps with that. Another thing could be that a company is partly or wholly remote. When a company is remote, it's more difficult to monitor employee well-being when you don't see them face to face. Now, this is not the best example because I think that lots of people like to be working remote, so they tend to stay more time, especially that I've talked with a few people at Reply because the company is remote, if I'm not wrong. But anyways, this was one of the hypotheses we had for the campaign. And then another of the hypotheses is, just actually looking at how much time they spend, which was my example. And so this is something you could look at on LinkedIn. So you identify some hypotheses that could mean that someone would be interested in your product or service. And then you can actually use this as the opener for your email. So once again, it's like, hey, as an example, hey, I was looking at company name on LinkedIn, and I noticed that the average tenure is below 6 months. Or you could say, hey, I was browsing Glassdoor reviews, and it seems that you've had a fair share of unhappy employees. So this kind of segmentation, this research, is the best way to draw attention, because you are talking to someone, but in a way that feels very personalized, because this is a problem that they are encountering. If you send them a message and you notice that there is like a very high chance that they have noticed that as well. It's like you notice that they have six people leaving after 6 months. They probably noticed that, and so this will probably make them want to read more of this email. So before I finish, like this email, so we had this first starting line, which was, hey, I was browsing, or hey, I was looking at your company name. Just want to mention a few rules of thumb that you should bend at your own discretion, because in my opinion, cold email copywriting is more art than science. So Vlad gave some great pointers, some great data-backed pointers. Follow them as much as possible, but sometimes just follow your intuition and just decide to throw everything away. That said, you want to make them as short as possible. You want to lead or you want to end with an observation. You probably want to add a cheeky PS line. It's usually a good spot to add some funny personalized joke. You want to add some social proof, and you want to end with an open-ended question. So applying these rules with our previous examples, this is how it could look like. So the opener is, hey, I was looking at company name on LinkedIn, and I noticed that the average tenure is below 6 months. And now you're presenting the solution. So you're saying our platform provides insights into overall employee engagement and lets you know if they are close to burnout. And then you can ask a question, could it be helpful to help you retain employees for longer? And then now you can make a small joke based on the about section in your LinkedIn summary or profile. So let's say they talk about dogs or cats, whatever it is. This is not very relevant, but it adds a touch of humor, which we kind of like with all of the AI and automation. So now that we went through one example, I wanted to showcase a few other examples that we've collected and tried on over 50 plus clients, and some that I actually like a lot. And so this is an example I had seen months ago on LinkedIn, written by this guy, Leaf Bisping. It was this guy, Kevin, that was criticizing the email. And so essentially the framework is, it describes an obvious choice you would make given several options, and then it compares the choice that the prospect is making related to a solution. So I'm just gonna read the email here, but essentially look at this email. So the topic line is, you are at a vending machine. So he's making you imagine a situation. And then it's, you see Diet Coke, 3 options, $0, $1, or $1.50 for a can. What would you choose? 0, right? It's pretty obvious, right? And then it's like, then why are you paying Stripe 1.5% in international processing fees when you could be paying nothing? So in this case, I'm guessing that Leaf has a competing product to Stripe, which has 0% in fees. And so I think that if you have a pretty well-known competitor who you can undercut in the pricing, and for which you can do a similar analogy, I think it will be pretty effective, just because it's a pretty good pattern interrupt. Prospects are not used to receiving this kind of emails, and so yeah, it's if you have a way to have your product match this kind of frameworks, then I would urge you to use that. Now, another example I like is this example from Ethan. The reason why I like this one is because it works for a lot of use cases, and it's really value oriented. I think once again that Vlad mentioned it in his data back. He said that you should try to give them something, you should try to bring value. And in this case, the template is simply hi first name, and then you just give them some content pieces that's supposed to help them, and you explain how it's supposed to help them, and then you ask if you can send it over to them. And then in the PS line, you can precise why you think it's relevant. These kind of email campaigns, we've tried them for a lot of clients. We tried them for ourselves. At some point, we had so many replies that prospects were pissed at us because we would send them a cold emails, they would reply, and we wouldn't reply to them because we were just inundated with replies. So this one is a great one. And in practice, you can see it goes like, hey, Jason, we've compiled a cheat sheet on how folks and then social proof are getting their AEs self-sourcing more than 30% of their own pipeline. Can I send it over to you? And then PS, thought this was relevant because I saw you recently decreased your SDR headcount and are hiring 3 more AEs right now. So this is the observation that I was describing. He put it in the PS line instead of leading with it. I find this to be a very cool example as well. And a last example that I like a lot, and once again, the reason why I like this one a lot is because, for us as an outbound agency, we need to be writing copy for a lot of different clients. And this is one that works pretty well just because it draws into challenge of similar companies. And if the product you are selling is a great product, then there is a challenge you are solving. And so this is a template from Patrick Trumpy that goes, first he starts with a personalization, if there is one, and then he mentioned the challenge of others in the industry, and then brings the solution and then ends with a CTA. And here, so the way it goes is, hey, Patrick, we are working, I'm getting a call. Oh, shit. Hello, can you still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, not see.
Sorry, I'm just gonna put it back.
We can hear you. Yep. No problem. Love, basically, love your template with sharing like free content. Actually, I saw this post on your LinkedIn a few months ago, and we started implementing here at Reply, and it works for us as well. Like just share something useful. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Well, then I think I've managed to change the camera. I think for some reason I got some issue with the other camera.
We can see your camera. Yeah. Okay. So I will go back to the back.
Okay, so I can end this. So yeah, so this was my last example, and so this was sharing similar challenges. And so I like this one because you can use it for a lot of different industries, clients, and so on. But still it goes, hey, Patrick, we are working with a lot of, and here this would be, the same job title as they are, So in this case, it says a lot of security officers at banks. But if your prospect is, VPs of sales in SaaS, then you would say, hey, we're working with a lot of VPs of sales in SaaS who faced, and then once again, this would be the problem they are facing. So who faced losses of 9K per hour due to ransomware and had phishing victims every 11 seconds. And then this is where you introduce the solution. We have a global team of experts available 24/7 to respond to and contain cyber incidents, blah, blah, blah. Here, and as you see in the PS line, it just has a small joke, like a niche joke, just because they work in security, so it doesn't attach a link. So these are for the 3 examples. Now to end the presentation, I also have a gift for you. This is actually the way I promoted the webinar today. So we've been collecting a lot of templates so every time we would see some interesting framework or template, we would collect it and then we would try it on a lot of our clients. We compile everything that worked in a document and we are sharing these documents. So the way you can get it is by, simply asking here, maybe you can ask Reply, or you can go on my profile, it's my post of today, and you can just say you want this document, and you'll get this you'll get a document with all of our winning frameworks that we've tested across 50 plus different organizations. And these are the ones that we use to power our outbound agency that's at the moment making over 2 million per year. So just to say that something is working. That's it for me for today. You can contact me at codeliku.com, michel@codeliku.com, or you can find me at Michel Liben on LinkedIn. And if there are any questions for the last minutes, then let me know.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was fantastic. One question from me. What is your favorite email template? Like, what is your favorite approach you are using heavily?
Yeah, I think my favorite one is the last one. So, like in terms of the actual output of the email, I like the first one I showed. The one where it's like, why are you paying 0 if you can pay? Why are you paying 1.5 if you can pay 0? But in terms of usability, and this is a very personal case, I like the last one, just because as we serve 50 different clients, it's something where it almost always works. It's always we work with, and then you mention the same person as the person you're reaching out to. I mean, the same persona, and then it ends. It describes the problem, which is like the problem that you have similar people you help with, and then it ends with the question. And this is a pretty easy one to plug, and I think most people here could be using this template and write a winning email in just like 10 to 15 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, someone is correcting me that I'm sorry for pronouncing your name in the wrong way. Michelle, right?
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry, my bad. Well, thank you again. That was very exciting, and we will be sharing the presentation again as all the previous presentations with you guys after this event. And basically, I don't know, maybe just now in the chat. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Ciao, Olivia. Bye-bye.
Before we go to our final panel, let me remind you that and actually encourage you to stay very active in chat, because we will be giving away 3 reply plans, basically yearly plans. First one is email only for those who want to heavily use email channel and like volume-based email outreach. Second one is professional, where you can combine email and LinkedIn and basically any other channel available at Reply. And third plan is AI SDR. For those of you who wanted to try AI agents, this is an opportunity. So please stay active. The more questions you ask, the more chances you have to win. And basically, who is still with us? Just drop a line in the chat. Tell us, like, hey, how do you find this conference? Do you like it? What was the most impressive presentation or panel, or the answer of a speaker? Just drop a line in the chat, please. Staying active. Cool. Frameworks. Docs was incredible. Okay, sounds great. I'm really happy that we have active audience till the end of the event. I know that like it's almost 3 hours live event, so it just can be tough to stay active and watch without any interruption. Well, but anyway, the event is recorded, so I mean, it definitely should be a convenient way. Okay, thank you for your comments. Yeah, let's activate, because right now we are diving into our final panel, and basically a critical conversation for the future of B2B sales, the role of AI. We got an amazing panel lined up to discuss the era of AI and what's next in B2B sales. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Mattia, co-founder at SDRs of Germany. Becca, senior business partner at You Can Book Me. Bethany, co-founder and CEO at SenseSpark, and Michael, co-founder and managing partner at Belkins.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
How are
Really
you?
happy to see you. Great. Well, we have so many speakers today for this panel, so I hope that let's make it dynamic and share the all our all the vision that actually we have about AI and B2B sales, because after all, that's about the predictions and something that is coming in 2025. The first question is kind of complex, so I'm gonna split it into 2 parts. What are the most significant changes AI has driven in the sales process so far? Let's start with Bethany, please.
Yeah. I think there's like a lot of changes, of course, that we've seen. I think personally, some of the ones I've like enjoyed the most are just being able to automate things that would otherwise take a lot of time. So like automating research or like automating notes after calls and updating the CRM, of course, automatically generating videos with SenseSpark. But I just love, it's not like I'm using AI in a radically different way to do things I haven't done before. It's just making the processes a lot faster and more efficient. I'm gonna close my blinds too because I'm getting.
Thank you. Thank you. Becca, would you want to be the next one?
Absolutely. I would love to share. So I totally agree with what Bethany said. The more we can automate mundane processes that are taking time away from what our SDRs should be doing, what our AEs should be doing, the more time they're actually engaging with their prospects, the more time they're actually taking care of the actions that are going to close the deal. You know, like there's 1,000,001 studies out there that are going to tell you the more touch points that your AE can have with your prospect, the more likely it is to close. So in my mind, even just in the hiring process of hiring an AE or an SDR, I absolutely look for AI experience and willingness to learn, because at the end of the day, I would rather pay somebody to be talking to their prospects versus taking notes, updating the CRM, doing any of those mundane processes that are not going to make them any money or me any money.
Makes sense. Michael?
Hey, everyone. We are using heavily AI during the research part. So we've learned how to analyze clients' case studies to identify, for example, the industry, the buyers, the solution, the problem part, and then with AI help to prioritize it, and then sort of like create it, we call it like competency map that allow us to then work on the messaging part. So you can essentially double down on the buyer, double down on ICP, double down on what actually resonates, and connect it with a lot of mundane research, as you mentioned, like analyzing testimonials from these XXXX websites and then connecting all of the dots into one place. So essentially, because AI can easily analyze a huge volume of data, it then helps to simplify that and put that in a simple manner, which is absolutely amazing, because then you can work on your messaging more thoughtful, more in-depth, and just have a much more successful outreach strategy.
Agree. Mattia?
Hi, everyone. And also hi, panelists that
Hi.
are on this panel with me. Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't think I have much to add. Everything that you guys have said, I totally agree. I think a lot of the times, and with this AI thing as well now, people are always looking for a shortcut, and people are now like, okay, we can do everything with AI, and like we don't need SDRs and AEs anymore. And you know, I've been asked this question so often in the last couple of months, like, do I think that SDRs and AEs won't exist anymore? But I think it's not about taking a shortcut and just letting AI do everything, but letting AI enable and empower us to do more things and to get us where we need to be quicker.
I agree entirely about this enabler part of AI. That's what we believe in Reply, that it's about enabling us to do more at a larger scale than replacing us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although
And we
the
need to do
first
this
reaction
smartly,
for
and I
many
think that's the
people.
question that we really need to figure out, like, how do we do this smartly and efficient, letting AI enable us and not letting them do our jobs, or letting AI do our jobs.
Although the first thing that most companies are doing is they're replacing. They feel like, okay, how I can cut costs on and have this thing instead of that, right? Which is a mistake, right? When we shouldn't replace, we just need to enhance and to work in a tandem, right? So
yeah, those are also the first companies that are going to say, oh, AI is not actually working. Do you know what I mean? When really it's just not working the way that you are using it, not in general.
It's about, yeah, try out different ways and figuring out how it will work for a specific company or a specific process, which actually leads us to the second part of this question. Which areas of B2B sales have benefited the most from AI adoption, and what are some early success stories? Mattia, we can start with you this time.
Sure. I think we've already mentioned a couple of those things, like, for example, researching. I think that is one of the things that has usually taken an SDR quite a long time, you know, going through all those different websites and finding good information. That is one thing that I've been using in my sales processes really, 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 really well. Researching and personalization. And again, here I'm not just using the personalization or the research that AI has given me to then blast it out, but then to actually do something good with it, you know, like do a video, for example, or like send a voice note with the information that AI has given me to like emphasize on the human touch. I think this is really the one thing that I like about it most is that usually when I tell people like be more creative with your outreach and do voice messages and videos and things like that, everyone's like, oh no, but we have so many things to do and we can't put the time into doing like cool, fun, creative things in our sales process. Right now, they don't have that excuse anymore, because so many of that manual work that has taken us so much time, we can just give to AI, and now you have more time to actually focus on human interactions and making those human interactions actually valuable. So I think there, for me, is the biggest chance and potential in AI. What do you guys think?
Do we still consider note-taking an AI or no? Is this already an old tune?
That's basic, that's something, like, I don't know, something that should be everywhere, I think, in every company.
But then note-taking, when you have a follow-up that consists of the highlights of the conversation and then putting that in a certain proposal or something, or generating automated proposals, that's a new thing, right?
Yeah. I also think note takers have gotten way better, because I remember like 6 months ago, you had your AI note taker and it would be like, Bethany talked about, SendSpark, and it's not helpful. And now it's like better at pulling out like the customer needs and details. So I think we should.
Yeah. And then if you put that
50 different tools, which ones are you guys using? Because I have not found the one tool, the one note taker where I'm like, yes, you do everything right.
It's tough.
I mean, I'm enjoying Blue Dot right now. That's the one I'm on currently. And I will say that the AI summaries are spot on, which is one of the biggest things that I was looking for. And I mean, Bethany touched on it earlier, but like, if it doesn't integrate with my CRM, I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah. Which one was that? Blue Dot.
Blue Dot. Yeah. I'm really
We use Firefly's integration with HubSpot and with some custom stuff, which works for us, but it took time for us to get used to. But a lot of my other partners are using Grain, and it works really well for them. So if anyone knows Grain, so
I'm going to add 3 different ones. We use Fathom for a lot of things, which works great out of the box with HubSpot. Update AI is more specific to customer success, and then build better apps is good for like product meetings and product insights. So I guess
interesting. So
don't start another note taker.
Tools into different calls.
That's so weird. Don't start another note taker company, please.
I would add ours. We use Avoma for sales calls, basically. And well, so far, myself as marketing director, I just see a lot of value from it. Like, I mean, it's like super detailed, just granularly put the key information about the conversation. Like, it's like really easy to navigate through a call. So, I mean, just take a look, guys.
I think it's like with all of the tools, right? You need to like just figure it out. And that's one of the things that, like, I think especially sales reps that are probably listening right now, like, try out everything. Honestly, at the moment, I'm signing up to like 3 or 5 different tools a week just to like check them out. And I think that's what's gonna like make us better than everyone else, like really diving into this topic and trying these things for ourselves. I think that's super, super important.
If you don't mind, let's navigate to our second question. How do you see AI reshaping buyer expectations, and how are sales teams adapting their approach to this increasingly data-driven, customer-centric environment? Becca, do you want to start?
Absolutely. I think we can all agree that, like, I think buyers are more aware that a lot of the cold outreach that they receive these days, buyers are aware that it's AI most of the time. Most of us can pick it out pretty quick. I bet if any one of us pulled open our LinkedIn inbox right now, we'd have at least one inbound cold message that the targeting was just wrong. Like, no, I'm not, the CEO of a pet food company, but thank you for reaching out, kind of thing. So, AI still does make those simple errors. I do think that buyers are aware that AI is there in the market. And I think that the most important thing that can be done in those circumstances, knowing that AI is out there and buyers being aware of it, because they're going to be more skeptical about those messages that they're receiving, is your copy has to be absolutely perfect. Your copy has to sound like a human, not a robot, and not a business school robot. For the love of goodness, please write real human being copy. And I think that that's the biggest way to break through the noise, because sounding like an AI robot, you're just going to get ignored.
Got it. And basically, we had two amazing presentations before this panel on how to create an amazing email copy. So please, to those of you guys who watch us now, please take a look at the previous presentations. Michael, what do you think?
I absolutely agree with Becca here. I think that everyone is always thinking about the scale and the volume, how I can make more of that instead of focusing on the conversion and quality. I think that we're now looking at the companies that are trying to chase for the volume, and they fail because the messages are generic. They're using a lot of AI. And then there's the companies that are focusing on the conversion and then thinking about smart campaigns and smart strategies that would help them by the help of the AI to essentially cut the time that they're spending on creating those smart strategies, but don't chasing the volume, right? And in this way, they're still authentic. So I think the future is for those companies and teams that love authenticity, that love creative writing, and they might do less volume. So you might not post every day on LinkedIn or do 10 blogs on a month, or a lot of case studies, a lot of those, or thousands of emails or outreach. But people forget that the goal is to send 10 emails and get 5 replies, right? Not to send 1,000 emails and then get the same number of replies. So, and I think that if we think about the AI as a tool that will enable us to do better in terms of the conversion, then that's the win for everyone.
Thank you. Bethany?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the bar has gone up a lot, and I think we can compare it to advertising, where we like now expect ads to be like a lot more tailored to us, a lot more personalized, a lot more relevant. And I don't think the expectation is necessarily like every person wrote every single email for you, but it needs to feel relevant. And even when you're getting on calls, like there's the expectation of you should really know more about the person you're talking to and have more research, just because if that's what everyone else in the space and all your competitors are able to do so easily, like you'll look like the odd man out not doing it that way.
Can I quickly ask Bethany, what do you think about the sort of like personalization part of it, right? Because there's a relevancy part and personalization part, and very often people are just sort of misplacing this two, right? Like they're trying to personalize the message, but that message, although it's been so personalized, and I'm like, wow, it's not relevant for me, right? So where we are at in terms of the relevancy versus personalization part.
I'm definitely more on the relevance train, partially because like I have a marketing automation background, and I think that it really comes down to relevancy, and sometimes like true personalization almost feels superficial. Like when people are like, "Oh, I went to WashU, or I had a friend that went to your school, go Bears." You're like, it almost feels like more fake. Like I'd rather you just be like direct and relevant. But that being said, I know people have different opinions about that, and I think it also depends like where you are in the sales process. If you're higher up, more top of funnel, it should be more about relevancy than personalization, because anything else feels superficial. But of course, if it's someone you've already talked to, or there's like a warm intro, and then you do something that's like not personalized, it starts like feeling a little weird as well. So it just kind of depends.
I think also too personalized, you get into the line of creepy.
Like we know everything about you, right?
If you send me a cold email and you're like, yeah, I also have 2 dogs that are named this and this, I'm just gonna delete you. Like you're scaring me.
I know where you work. I know where you live.
Right? I know where you live. Like no.
Mattia, would you like to join?
Yeah, I actually forgot the question that you asked in the beginning. I think it was the future of sales, right?
Reshaping buyer expectations.
Reshaping buyer expectations. I feel like I think this is what I'm expecting for now, and then like the next couple of months, I think there's going to be a lot more outreach coming our way, like a wave. I already see this now. I feel like my inbox is exploding at the moment with like messages. And so it's going to go up. And then at some point, I think it's just not going to work anymore because everyone's doing it. And then people will need to find like a better way of standing out in people's inboxes. And I think this goes back to my first point, right? If now we all send text-based messages that all sound the same because the AI has done the same, research on every one of us, we need to stand out as more of a human. And you can do that by, sending videos, by sending voice note, by, having like things that usually we couldn't have done at scale because it would have taken us too much time together with the research. So I think buyers are going to expect more effort from us putting into our sales outreach. And if you ask me, this has been long overdue. Like the amount of messages and sales messaging that has been going around for a very long time is not up to the standard that buyers, expect them to be. And now the bar is going to be even higher.
I call this cross-functional, cross-channel campaigns, where you kind of combine a lot of different initiatives into one seamless journey for the buyer, right? So you're not pushing all the channels at the same time, but rather you're like switching them one by one by creating a more holistic experience for the buyer, but still doing a more than just an email chain, right, or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And which actually transitions us to the next question. As AI becomes more integrated into sales processes, what new competences and skills will be essential for the AI augmented salesperson of the future? Michael, would you like to start?
Oh, I was like, shit, I don't have anything. No, if I'm being serious. I do believe in the domain knowledge. So we need more domain expertise and very domain in-depth understanding of what the problem we're solving with this product or the product. And in this way, you can be much more relevant with your pitch and with your initiative, because we have lots of us are generalists, and because of that, we have very generalized campaigns all the time, which is not good, right? So I think that's one thing. So like how the salespeople can be more domain expert in one thing and just building their career in that domain. And then another thing is obviously content creation, thought leadership, and just being able to be a good storyteller and just essentially be able to build the audience and build that first initial awareness and activation stages of the funnel early on, because last 5 to 10 years we've been very fortunate to have a high conversion in a way, like with emails, with calling, with LinkedIn. We've always focusing on the conversion part of the funnel, like how we can convert more, right? And less on the awareness and activation part of the funnel. So I think like if salespeople will be more involved in those stages with their skill set of going out there and being more like a thought leader in a way, not the fake one, but actual one that is interested in the domain that they're in, then we're going to have, more successful down the road. So.
And in your case, AI is, again, more like an enabler, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Becca, would you like to join?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest skills that salespeople are going to need to have and that you're going to need to build into your sales process is the recognition. AI can only take you so far, especially if it's a higher ticket item. I mean, if you're selling a lower cost subscription, in general, you're going to need less human touch point, and that's cool. But if you're selling a $30,000 a month subscription, the people you're selling to, they're all going to have a really, really unique niche use case, and they're not going to buy unless you spell out for them exactly how your product is made for their super weird, tiny little niche that nobody's ever thought of before in their life. So I think a big part of just having skill set in an AI world in sales is really, agreeing with Michael with product knowledge, but also you need to be able to critically think, and you need to really be able to reposition your product in every single pitch you're in to fit every single one of those super weird niche use cases, because that's how you're going to close at the end of the day. AI can answer the basic questions.
Customization, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Becca. Bethany?
Yeah, I really agree with both of those statements. And what I think is going to happen is actually your typical salesperson is going to do less outreach and less automation for a lot of things, because I can see the role of like marketing or your go-to-market engineer or a different position taking on more of that. And especially if you are doing omni-channel outreach, like things are going to be so down to a science in one space that it actually is going to completely free up that part of the salesperson's time where they're not doing that. They're just taking the responses, taking the meetings, taking things, from here, like to the finish line, because the rest is going to be so orchestrated. You don't want more cooks in that kitchen. And so I do think what Becca said is really right. It's like, well, what can you do super, super well and like be an expert, a subject matter expert. Focus on awareness and activation. We've actually making some of those changes internally, and I think that's completely true. Like focus on the human element, which is great. Like there's so many new use cases that I think are now fully open that wouldn't have been possible before because people are just so busy doing things that should be done by machines.
Thank you. Mattia?
I don't think I have much more to add to what everyone else has been saying. I think at the moment I'm hiring for an SDR, and since I feel like I myself don't really know the AI skills of a future person just yet, because we're not really there yet, the number one thing that I'm really looking out when I'm hiring is just curiosity for the topic. If I'm hiring someone and they're like, nah, I don't really think this is a thing, and like I don't really want to try this out and do something with it, I'm like, okay, work somewhere else maybe. But if there's someone in front of me sitting like, yeah, I'm also trying this out, and have you thought about doing that and this, then I'm like, you know what, I think you're good for the job. So I think if I have to sum it up in one word, it's curiosity for the topic in general and overall at this point for me.
Do you see more people, like your potential SDRs or sales reps, who are interested in AI topic in sales? Is there a race of AI curiosity, basically?
Yeah, and if there's not, then I don't know what you're doing anymore. To be fair,
I mean, like
that's
that's always about tracking how market reacts, right? So, like we as companies, we create the requirements of for our employees, saying like, "Hey, we need you to automate the stuff with AI," and that creates a reaction on the markets, meaning that our potential employees starting to being curious and learn more about AI. So this is why I'm asking whether the market has started to react more heavily on this curve of innovation where we are right now, from your perspective.
So last 10 AI tools were brought by my team. I didn't even look at them because I don't have time for reviewing and testing another AI tool, right? So I think like where we are in the market, we already passed the early adopters, and now like everyone is thinking for themselves and they're bringing on. So now they're just, I need budget, or can we buy this? So I think like the times when, if you remember, like Apollo was the first one who introduced a lead data tool for the SDRs, not for the managers, like ZoomInfo, right? And then they start kind of scaling the product like that. I think we are now at the point where AI are not being promoted by managers. Hey, you need to automate that, but rather like people are looking for themselves, how I can do this and automate that, cut time, do this, do more. Work more, and then they bring into the team and they're like, oh yeah, I've been using this tool, I've been testing this already for like a couple of months, it's cool, can we buy this for the team, for example? I can touch someone else to do that. So that's what I've seen in my team.
Which is also the best way to do it, right? Because if now managers are like, oh, you guys SDRs whose job I'm not doing on a day-to-day basis, use this tool to automate it, right? Like when the people that are actually doing the tasks on a day-to-day basis are suggesting tools, that's the best way to do it, probably.
Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing that it's just there is the need and there is a reaction. I mean, that's really a crazy times to live, right? And let's move to our next question. Practical implementation. In terms of sales performance, what KPIs should companies focus on when integrating AI into their B2B sales processes? Let's start with Bethany.
Okay, sorry. I was reading the comments. Now let me read the question. In terms of sales performance, KPIs. I think that it's not about having new KPIs for AI. It's about using AI to hit the KPIs you're already working on, right? So if your KPIs are like leads or qualified meetings or revenue, like whatever your KPIs are, like that is what you're using AI for, in my opinion.
Agree. And how do they change? Like, are the new KPIs about doing more prospecting, reaching out to more people, increasing those activities per SDR or per sales rep?
oh yeah, like I would say less activity based, right? Because you're automating
Mhm.
more. And
Right.
then more result driven.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Michael?
What about the relevancy metric? Like so for example, probably if the leads that we are talking to are more relevant for us, we're going to see shorter sales cycle or higher sales closing ratio, right? So probably anything that impacts my sales quality metrics, if I am driving that change with AI, that should probably change it, right? So if give you an example, let's say we're integrated this a lot of processes with AI that will help us to do better buyer research, more relevant messaging, yada yada yada, then at the end of the day, the quality of the appointments should go up, right? So in this way, the sales team should see more closing deals in a way, right? So less volume, more quality. So I would go like that.
Thank you. Becca?
I think another thing is if AI is taking away the tedious, the manual labor costs, we should see an increase in increase in overall output. And I think that the overall output increase should be largely on things that, we can't automate because they've got more time on their hands. If you're not doing any note taking, if you're not updating your CRM, if you're taking away all of the tedious stuff, you have way more time to focus on the things that should actually close a sale. So I think one of the biggest, I agreed on there should be more closes. The time to close should be shortened. If you have more time to connect with your prospect, you have more time to energize and research and think about them and focus on that prospect, you should close it faster. And there should be more touch points in between.
Yeah. But instead of that, salespeople have anxiety, like, oh, what should I do then, right? It's like I have all this free time that I spend on routine tasks. Then I need to think with my head what to do next, which is...
That's a challenge. It's something to develop.
Yeah.
Mattia?
Again, nothing much to add. Maybe the one thing I was thinking of spontaneously right now is maybe sounds weird, but a happiness KPI, because that's the way that I just sold more AI processes into an SDR team that has now started using AI, because I was like, guys, you can actually now enjoy the good things about sales, like talking and things like that. And the overall happiness within the team should therefore go up, because now they're not doing the annoying tasks that nobody wanted to do anyway. But that's probably more of an internal HR KPI rather than a business focused KPI.
But I really love it. I mean, I've never heard about happiness KPIs in sales. Really,
no one. It doesn't exist.
Never on any webinar.
We should include that in sales, right?
It sounds great, really. I mean, in this role, in this profession, so stressful, I can say so. I mean, it feels like there is a chance to reduce this manual routine parts, which annoys a lot, and focus on what really actually excites in this job. I like this point.
Which is relationship building, right? Build more relationships
Exactly.
than automate stuff. Yeah.
Also, if your team members are happier, your employee retention is going to go up. And let's be honest, more product knowledge equals easier closes. So the longer you can keep your people happy, the longer they stay with you, the more likely they are to get better at their job, which is closing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And be true evangelists of your product, because they're not just used to getting told no all the time. Because I think there's no way it doesn't get to you. If you're trying to sell something, you're just getting no. But when you're more successful, you're just a bigger believer in what you're doing.
I mean, that's exciting. I'm really looking forward to our next event where we present this happiness KPIs as the new norm for sales roles. I mean, I'll be super excited about that. Let's move to the next question now. As AI systems gain the ability to handle more complex decision-making, how can sales teams ensure they maintain a personalized approach while scaling? Let's start with Michael.
I'm sorry, that was a very long question, and I'm still getting around it.
That's on the screen right now.
Yeah, I'm looking.
No worries. We thought about that.
I don't really get the question, to be fair.
So again, I have a strange relationship with personalization. To be honest with you, I'm into relevancy just because I don't like when people personalized outreach, and I know that this is a personalized outreach, right? So it's better the relevancy. So if the question is if AI will be better, can they be more maybe relevant? We've internally have this 2027 to 2027 should be the year where AI will be much smarter than it is right now, and we might lose the touch with like whether it's a real or it's a human or an AI. That's kind of we gave it like 3 more years internally. But until that happens, creative writing, curiosity, and is the most important part for me, especially when I am hiring and training junior SDR team. I'm trying to focus on educating and sort of like turning them into a senior down the road rather than helping to enhance them with AI more and more and more, so they have the replacement of skill, right? Like my personal concern is anything that we're doing with AI, it should be focused on automation, some stuff, but not replacement. So like having tools that replace the copywriting is bad. Having tools that will completely replace the interactions between SDRs, etc., and the buyers is also not the best way, right? So for me personally, so yeah, so as long as it's relevant, as long as it works on building relationships and being more relevant and being more curious, yada yada yada, then I'm all for it. If not, then I'm not going to be using it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Can I add to that? Because that's like very similar to how we think about things. Like, what we always say at SendSpark is how can you personalize what needs to be personalized, but automate everything else? And I think one tactic to do this is to not automate first. Like before you send out 100,000 emails, like literally write 10 emails to 10 individuals, and you'll see, you're like, oh, that was actually kind of weird in your messaging. And same with videos. Like, don't make your AI personalized video first, like literally record 10 videos, and then you get a feel for your messaging, and then that's how you're scaling. And I think that is 100% the way to do it. It's like, what are you doing that works on a small scale? How do you make it a big scale? And if you think about it from that mindset, you're going to get great results, and it's not going to be quite as weird as if you went in the other direction.
Thank you, Bethany.
I love that. That was a really good
Becca,
summary.
would you like? Matthias, sorry about.
Oh, sorry. I just said I love that, what Bethany just said.
Yeah, that was cool.
I think one of the things that I don't foresee AI taking over, at least for quite some time, is the actual pitch itself. Getting on a real video call and actually talking to a human being, answering their real questions. And I think that the biggest thing that sales teams can do in the growth of AI is you need to be the best you can be on camera, the best you can be at pitching, at telling your story. And that involves also being as prepared as you can be. So maybe it's less about becoming the best you can be at using Sales Navigator, but you become a better public speaker. You become a more critical thinker. And like a prime example I experienced today, I had a great company pitch me a great thing today. However, they did not do their research in advance, and I noticed it way too many times throughout. They were pitching me, they wanted to charge me tens of thousands of dollars for something that we're already doing. And if they took about 30 seconds to Google us, they would have seen that we're already doing. So I think that being the best on camera, personalized, prepared pitcher that you can possibly be is the best way you're going to be able to set yourself up for success when all else is automated.
I just got a thought. What about when AI will be more and more complex, we can then focus more on the problem part where AI would know better the problem and categorize it, and then help the sellers to know the problem more in depth, right? Because right now, what I start noticing more, and I never thought about this, but we sell the solution off. We always highlight the solution, like here's the solution, we pitch the solution, but we less focus on the problem and knowing the problems. And as Becca mentioned, customizing the problem, solution to the problem, right? And being very customized. So I think like if AI can help sellers to know the problem and be more then I think that's an excellent future for us.
To add to that, we just hired a new marketer last week, and the first thing he did I thought was so interesting. He asked for all the sales calls and then went through, and we have them all recorded. So then he used AI to go through the summaries and identify like the problems, the fears, challenges, which like makes a lot of sense when you hear it, but we'd never done that before, and I thought it was really interesting.
Thank you. Mattia?
Again, great discussion topics before. We're always going last, right? Nothing new to add. But I think, Michael, what you just said is a really big thing. I mean, how many messages do we get a day that say, "Hi, Mattia, I am this and I do that, and this is the solution," right? And we do a lot of solution selling, when really now that we have all this information at hand, there is no reason to do solution selling anymore, and all the reason to start using our brain again and actually put, I don't know, the situation and the status quo of our customers and what we can do together, and then offer them a solution to their specific problem, right? And I think that's going to be the key.
I review our case studies recently, and I noticed that all the case studies headlines are like, "Here are the results we delivered. This is the solution with the results, yada yada." But we didn't talk on the problem. Like, here's the specific problem that we've solved and how. So here's, but then the specific problem that was solved, and we'd rarely talk about that. And I was like, shit, why is that? We'd never thought of that. And now it makes more sense when you're like, using and focusing on that. And we've done the same exercise that Bethany is doing just right now with like discovering the problems, like communicating that across the board with all the sales and marketing and service teams, so that we know that here's our product, it solves all these problems, this is how they're relevant, and both internally, externally educating, talking about that. Because before that, we just talk about solution, talk about the outcomes, but rarely about the problem.
I think that Mattia illustrated it best when you said almost all inbound cold outreach that you receive, it always starts with, "Hi, my name is Bob and I work at this place. I don't know you. I don't really care
No
who you
one cares.
are." They all think like that. They're all the same. And that isn't that's not relevant to me. I've never heard of you as a person. And it's not like it's a conversation. You're not like shaking my hand and being like, "Hi, my name is Bob." But they all start with making it about the person sending the cold outreach, not about the recipient.
100%.
I just realized that I reach out to speakers at this conference, starting like, "Hi, I'm Olivia Seymour at Reply." So I definitely need to review my approach to outreach. We have one more question from my side, and I see there is 1-2 questions from the audience. So let's try to cover them all. Emerging AI trends. What emerging AI trends do you believe will have the most profound impacts on B2B sales in next 3-5 years? Let's imagine. Mattia, would you like to start?
There's one time that I didn't have an answer for it already.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to repeat myself, actually. I think we've talked a lot about the trends that we see and the opportunities and potentials that we see in AI and where we think this is going to go. I think that, as I said, there's going to be a huge uptake now in like activities and output that we're going to have. But by the time that we get to 3 to 5 years in the future, I think, I hope we will all have figured out how to use AI very efficiently, very relevant, to create great customer journeys and to have a wonderful sales job where we're all like, cool, we're just doing the things that we actually enjoy doing. And I think that's going to be the biggest impact also. So when we as sellers are actually enjoying our job more, right, then that's going to have an impact on the customers also, because they're going to have a better buying experience, because they're like, oh, the people that we speak to are actually, really happy in their jobs and really love what they're doing. And that's why I always say I have a really big belief that AI is going to disrupt this industry, but in a really, 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 really good way. For now, the next couple of months, I think it's going to be a bit tough because, we'll have a lot of messages and a lot of people trying things out. But in the long run, I think this is only a great addition to our profession.
Thank you. Bethany?
So I'm not sure 100%, but I think something that we need to open our minds to is if you look at our current processes, where are there human touch points that we're going to be able to eliminate with AI, which now opens up a whole new possible workflow. Like an example being like at SunSpark, like we automate welcome videos, right? So like if someone signs up, you can automatically generate a welcome video and then send it in your campaign. Previously, when you couldn't automate videos, like that would never have been a thing that you could even do, because like you'd have to have a human like manually be recording videos. And I think there's a lot of things like that. Like if you think about like, oh, that human touch point is no longer applicable, like a whole new box opens. So I don't know what they are yet, but I think like it's gonna be very interesting to see it all play out.
Thank you. Becca?
One thing that I don't know if any AI company is working on this, but if you're listening, please make this for me. I want the things that we can't really measure or can't really pull a direct ROI from right now. I want those to be measurable in the future. And I think AI is the way to do it. My most basic example is like the park bench down my street. Somebody is paying to put some sort of ad on that park bench at all times. And let's be honest, it's largely awareness marketing. And I know I'm going the marketing route here versus sales, but I feel like with the growth of AI, things that are harder to measure and harder to get direct ROI from, those are the things that I would love to see more measurable and more trackable in the future.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I support that completely, just because from marketing standpoint, attribution and like measurements of each channel, that's a critical thing. Thank you. Yeah, Michael.
So when Bethany and Becca were talking, I visualized a customer journey in front of me, and I was like, okay, everyone is saying that we have a broken customer journey right now. There are parts of the funnel or journey where we are double downing on and some that we're missing. So if AI can help to tailor that customer journey per account or per buyer, and then highlight what are the parts of that journey we are missing as the provider to the customer, what we are not doing, and then even figuring this out and giving that answer would tell us, okay, you need to do this or that, which is again similar to the attribution part, right? And it's funny how these two dots connected, but really essentially breaking down the funnel, tailoring it per customer, per account, and then highlighting what parts of that is we are missing so that we are able to fix that and then be more relevant in this way.
Got it. Thank you so much. And we have like probably one question from the audience. For startups, sorry, not that one. One question I'd really like to ask about, what are the actionable strategies to shorten a sales cycle that is taking a longer time to complete?
I think one thing that I've at least experienced in the past is coach your SDRs and your AEs on objection handling, because I think a lot of the time the drag out is simply your prospect is answering questions that your salesperson just doesn't know the answer to. And the response is, that's a great question, let me get back to you. But when you have that same conclusion multiple times, it really drags things out. And I think the other thing that is really important and impactful is show up rates to your pitches and your meetings. Because if your guest is no showing and they're rescheduling and they're canceling and they're rescheduling, like things are getting drug out, and half the time it's just because somebody forgot about their meeting or they double booked themselves. All these silly little things that are preventing you from getting in front of them and just, let's be honest, getting it over with. So the more you can automate things like your meeting reminders and just getting in front of the person and answering all their objections as concisely as possible in as few meetings as possible, I think is the best way to do it. Just a really quick stat, and then I'll pass it off to somebody else. Using text message reminders for meetings can reduce your no-show rates by up to 35%. That's a big deal. So the more you can just get in front of those people and action it in as few meetings as possible is the most important.
Thank you so much. Who wants to join?
Yesterday, I spoke about this with one of my CEOs, and one of the reasons then the sales cycle is longer is because you usually talk about the problem and the FOMO of the things during the initial part of the sales journey. But then later down the road, you're missing that and you're focusing on the solution and on the proposals, and you stop talking about the problem part, which initially initiated the conversation. So essentially, in 2-3 months in the sales journey, you're discussing or have been discussing something, but the customer and you already lost touch with the initial problem that led to talking to this. So I think bringing that problem discussion back into play should help to reignite the conversation and essentially then like, okay, yeah, we need to start working on this. Plus the cost of missing opportunities probably, right? Like if we're not making this decision right now, what we're missing in terms of the lost revenue or lost opportunities or something like that. I think not many people realize still until this day when making decisions. So
Got it. Thank you. I don't know. Any other thoughts on this one?
Write it in the chat, but creating urgency. One thing I'll also add, so like we're talking about if you're in a sales process, where I can speed it up and like 100% what we've been talking about. I'll also say if the sales process hasn't started yet and you're just thinking about how to create a faster sales process, doing more marketing or like market education earlier on and creating authority and credibility and urgency even before you start talking can help a lot. Because sometimes if it's already dragging on, it might be too late. But like, is there more you can do? So by the time that you're actually talking to someone, they already know that they have a pain that they're trying to solve, and then you're kind of starting later in the sales process, and I'll save you some time.
I love that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Maria had to jump off this call, of this panel discussion. I'm like, working mode. So thank you so much. That's it for the panel today. I hope that you like the questions, both you speakers and those who listen to this conference right now. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for sticking till the end. Thanks panelists. Thanks Olivia for hosting. Great conversation. Thanks guys.
Thanks, everyone. See you.
Bye.
And now I think it's time for the fun part, right? Where we announce the winners who will actually get 3 reply plans. Email only for volume-based email outreach professional, where you can combine different channels and AI SDR. Vlad, would you like to announce the winners?
Sure. So you and actually our market team, we had a chance to scan all responses in the chat for a while. So we just just left some message. The message in the chat. So it's like Liz sent us, Sandra Ushe, sorry if I mispronounced you, and Zisnik SGIODF, you name it. So if you guys can leave your email maybe in the chat, so we will get in touch with you, we will email you, and we will help you. Or alternatively, please reach out to Rima at Reply.io, and we will you can decide what plan you need, and then we will just proceed from there. So thanks everyone for being active in the chat. Hope you enjoyed the conversation there.
So yeah, once again, thank you for being with us, being part of Sales Development Excellence. That's been a pleasure to host such a big event. It was more than 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. Almost 4 hours, but that's always a pleasure to host such events with panels, presentations. It's full of insights, and we hope that you guys really enjoyed the insights and the vision actually on what to wait in 2025.
Yeah, and we hope you get valuable takeaways from today's sessions. And I think you can apply a few of those things in your own cold outreach process or your sales team and your sales strategies. Whether it's leveraging AI, whether it's improving your cold emails or building a world-class SDR team for the future, I hope there is a lot to digest and implement. So hope these presentations, this event helps you stay ahead in this rapidly evolving industry.
Connect with our speakers, proceed these conversations, think about how you can evolve within your sales development or sales departments, what processes to improve, what processes to automate with AI. Because after all, 2024 is almost done, and we need to think about how what we should change in the future, which is coming. Thank you.
All right, so thanks everyone, and see you around. Bye, everyone.